May 26th of the Sewer Commission, and we have a pretty full agenda and a very full room, which is great. I hope hope you're here for the presentation and not something else, because it's a little scary up here. The first thing on the agenda I'd like to go through is some fun stuff, which is the first one is to introduce our new sewer commissioner, Sue Bunish, who just joined us after the election, who I have to give Sue a lot of credit. Sue has been coming to the meetings for several months and still decided to join us, so that's a good sign of her tenacity. But we did meet Sue because she's been very active in trying to bring sewer to Pleasant View Ave and fixing some water problems on Pleasant View Ave. So she's a very dynamic person and not afraid to get out there and work. So she's going to fit in great. And Sue is a teacher, yes. I got a little scared when she told me how to correctly pronounce her name. She said it was Sue Bunish, as in punish. And I said, that's a scary thing. I must get the students' attentions. Okay. So welcome, Sue. We're really looking forward to having you on the team here. And the other kind of fun but sort of double-edged thing we'd like to do tonight is two of our members have recently decided that they couldn't stay with us any longer after 5 years, which is a nice amount of time. Unfortunately, one of them, Butch Bellotta, could not make it tonight, so we'll get him later. But Dave McDonald is here, and I'd like to make a presentation to Dave. Dave has been on the commission for 5 years, and I can't say enough of the difference that Dave has made to this commission and to the people in this room, quite frankly. Dave has been a major driving force behind us doing some betterments. He and Mike here hit the road to make sure that the required signatures and things were all in place that we could move forward with these sewer extensions. Dave is just a great guy to work with. He epitomizes community service. He's just always doing something for someone, whether it be Salvation Army or Boys and Girls Club or on building Reese committees. So Dave's a pretty busy guy, and I understand why maybe he'd like a little break. So a year break would be good, Dave, and then you can come back. Be good. But I'd like to present Dave with this very well-deserved and earned plaque on behalf of the commission. And I'm going to. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. And just one last plug there. We should have 5 members up here, and we only have 4. So we would look forward to anyone who would like to step up, either in the audience here or out in TV land, and join us. It's a very important mission for the town. This commission really is more important than you'd think. It's more than just sewerage. It's important to the development, how the town develops, and we have a lot of fun, but we get a lot done. It's a team that rolls their sleeves up and really makes things happen. Not just making sure that the budgets are met and provide good service, but that people in need can get served as well. So please consider joining us. It's a really good cause. Or join some other committees in town. We've got plenty of openings. Okay. That said. Oh, yes. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate that. Yeah, I always skip this first important step. Is that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. A couple other announcements. One is it's that time of year. We do have a pool filling policy. And this is something that's very important if you're going to fill your pools or you're putting in a new lawn and expect to do a lot of watering. So taking water from the water district or wherever you get your water, if it doesn't go down into your sewerage system, into your plumbing, then we really need to know about that, or else we're going to charge you sewerage rates for that water that doesn't actually go in the sewer. So it's kind of a waste of your money, and it's a waste of all of the processing of that water, which is pretty clean water. So there is a policy that allows you to do that without getting charged for that. If you do it without going through the application and getting the permit, then you'll be charged sewerage rates, because we have to charge sewerage rates on those waters. Okay. Grease traps, always a big issue. Our two biggest issues with driving our operating costs are grease in the system. Not just from restaurants, but those are the places that we can try to control. But from homes, I'm sure from a quantity point of view, more comes from homes than from all the restaurants in towns. So we really want to try to keep grease out of the system. We're trying to work with all the restaurants in town to have good, clean, maintained grease traps. We've had some trouble with that. We're still struggling with that. We've had to send out some non-compliance fees that are due, and we hope they all get in compliance. I think there's been good response from probably half of the people, but the other half have not. Just again, on an announcement point of view, we have, our system is maintained by a company called Small Water. They take care of our pump stations, and we've increased their scope of work to help us manage this grease trap situation. So they will be very soon starting to randomly visit restaurant establishments that have grease traps. And the first visit will be mostly, introduction, who they are, representing us. They do have all of the rights of the Sewer Commission to enter the establishments and do whatever inspections of logs and cleaning that they need to do. They will initially, though, be very open to help educate people. That's a big part of it always, is to try to educate the restaurant owners on how to properly do it. In such a way that it isn't such a big deal as it seems to be. So they will be available, and they will be visiting the restaurants. So anyone out there who runs a restaurant, say hi to Deb and Al when they come see you. And please let them in. They'll be doing some inventory just to make sure that we have proper records on what equipment and facilities these places have. I think that's all of the announcements. And then just before we go to public comment, because this is a new year and we just had an election, we need to have a election of officers. So we need to elect the chair, vice chair, and clerk. And I would entertain a motion for anyone or all.
I would like to make a motion to elect you, Carl, as chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Troy. I'm happy to do it. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Mike Nault as vice chair.
Okay. Thank you. Have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. Excellent. And then we have one more open.
On that note, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Kyle Daniels as clerk.
Okay. Thank you very much. Troy
Anybody?
Daniels. And
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're aboard again.
Okay. So before we go to our first appointment, any public comment from the public? Mr. Rogers, if you could approach the mic.
Oh, wait, move the mic a little bit,
That's your work.
because Kevin needed it, sorry.
Oh, good. Could you grab the mic, please? If so.
My name is Dave Rogers. I live at 82 Highland Street, and I'm here this evening with Fran McNamara on behalf of the Lunenburg Water District. Much has been said recently concerning water extension down on Chase Road, and frankly, we've not been notified of any interest whatsoever down there. nor have we been notified of any other major kind of development opportunities in the town. And I wondered if the Sewer Commission has been contacted with the idea of extending sewer down Route 13, Chase Road. And if so, we would like to extend the olive branch, so-called, so that we could hopefully work together if that were the case. Very frankly, we've not heard anything about that. But that's not to say that we have our ear to the ground. So I guess the first question is, have you heard of any rumblings or any interest thus far on extending sewer down there, which would be a natural adjunct to extend water?
Right. I'm personally not aware of any discussions. Any members of the board aware of any? I'm trying to think of where the sewer service area ends on Chase Road.
Odors. It doesn't even come up to Chase. It doesn't come up as far as Chase.
It doesn't come up as far as Chase.
No, I think Mass Ave
Okay.
Motors, right above the Electric Ave intersection is the end.
So as of now, and I know during the CWMP, and Kevin is here, we looked at that whole area regarding sewer service area when we did the whole town. And that area did not end up being in the sewer service area. It was not considered an area of need. The only place that was really being driven, which was not so much for need, but further down Chase, I think it was, for potential development, economic development zone. And then very early on, that was backed away for some reason. So we didn't even put a sewer service area there for that purpose. So as of right now, the sewer service area doesn't go down there. So more than just approaching us, they would need to do a study and prove need
Sure.
on that road for sewer anyway, water.
Yeah, well, I make reference to it because, in fact, reference was made about providing water down to the new Department of Public Works facility. And we went through that ad nauseum, and it didn't make any sense, and we walked away, and the proponents didn't pursue it. So I just want to be on the record saying that, notwithstanding the fact that it's not in your sewer service area, also known as the SSA, we'll be happy to coordinate and to assist if there is a need for water in that area. Okay, or any other larger area. Okay.
So the only comment I would make, and thank you for coming, Dave, because I know I've heard this rumbling out there, but not aware of any
Right.
specific issues. And certainly, if there's anyone here that wanted to comment or knows more than that, they're welcome to come on up to the mic. The only other related thing, as you know, that the sewer that we became aware of was a potential issue on Pleasant View Ave, because we were pursuing an extension there. And
Right.
when that came up, we said, boy, if you're going to dig the road up, this would be a good time to fix a problem if there is one.
Right.
So that's the only place that we've touched on anything where people have indicated any water desires or
Sure.
issues.
Would you be kind enough to enlighten the good folks here and on TV with regard to what transpired with specific regard to the water situation on Pleasant View?
Well, as far as we were concerned, it was highlighted that had been a historic issue on that street, and that this was the time to do it. So we approached Carrie, and certainly Jack Roddickman was in the discussions. There was, I believe, some contact made with Leominster
Yes.
to see if they would, I guess the pipes are substandard, and this is not our area, but you asked for what I know, and this is what I know. That the pipes are fairly small, 2-inch, and they don't have good pressure, so they
Right.
were looking to upgrade the pipes. Leominster was approached. I'm told that was going nowhere. And then I believe they reached out to the town and the water district. But we're running out of town. We had to make the decision that we can't really wait any longer. We can't afford to hold the project up and miss some windows of opportunity.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we dropped it. I don't know where it is.
With that in regard, I'd like our Superintendent Fran McNamara to comment with regard to that, to make sure that everybody knows that we did everything we possibly could and that Leominster is there.
Right. Yeah, Leominster's been servicing the area since the late 1800s. They do have a 2-inch line there, which was put in, I believe, it was the late 80s to increase the amount of water available to the residents. I did drive by, I did talk to one of the residents, which I can see she's here, and she said there was no issues with the water. And as far as everybody I talked to, there was no issues with the water. So I did call Leominster. They were aware of no complaints for the water system. So for a water system to step up to the plate and commit funds to a project, it needs time. You can't just say, well, you need to replace a main and then in a month have the money available to do that. So, I mean, if it was even in the Lunenburg Water District and there was an area that needed to be replaced, I would say we'd probably need a year and a half to appropriate the money to do it. So to throw it at Leominster and expect them to upgrade their system is, it's pretty hard to get them to actually do it. And on the Leominster side of things, they've actually replaced, I bet, every water main in Lunenburg in that area except for Pleasant View. That's probably the last street left. And I think if they were made aware of it quite a while ago, I think they probably might have stepped up and contributed some funds to it. So, but as far as the financial costs, it is cheaper. If the residents on Pleasant View paid to fix that water main themselves, it is far cheaper than it would be to extend the Lunenburg Water District system up Pleasant View. So that would require extension of the water main on Graham Street and then up Pleasant View. I would say it'd probably be half the cost if they redid the Leominster system. So in the best interest of the people, Lunenburg would not be the best option. If they wanted to spend significantly more money and Leominster waived their rights to that street, Lunenburg would go there. But it's not the best interest of the people. I mean, we should be looking at how much it's going to cost each person. So.
The last issue that we'd like to touch on, if we could, please, is mitigation issues. Right?
Okay. The sewer commissioners, I mean, many of you make comments this all the time, as well as the selectmen, all very concerned with the sending of Lunenburg water out of town. And in this case, the sewer extension is doing exactly the same thing. You are sending Lunenburg's water to Leominster. It's going to go through a treatment plant and dump right into the Nashua River. So I'm wondering if maybe it is part of the project. That's kind of more of, this is more of a question. Is there any mitigation measures to offset this loss of water? Because the majority of this project is in our recharge area. So it's going to, instead of recharging our wells, it's heading out of town. So is there anything part of this contract that they're going to upgrade some drainage, stop it from jumping into little streams, little brooks, something? Is there something that you know of that's going to offset the water going to Leominster?
And I guess most important from my perspective, have your engineers addressed this issue and advised you at all with regard to this mitigation situation?
I can say, because I was part of the comprehensive wastewater plan that the town funded to like $400,000 to go do this comprehensive wastewater plan for Lunenburg. And a very big driver to that whole plan was exactly this issue of not to sewer anything that didn't need sewering, as in it could not be supported by a septic system that would return the water. Recharge was a huge issue, and quite frankly, what removed some areas from the sewer service area or put them on hold until additional investigations, like you're saying, could be done to deal with not shipping that water out. We don't have any mitigation plans. I know the town is actively starting to restart the stormwater management, which would create those kind of recharge issues. But we've not had any specific discussion of how to regain or mitigate, I think was the word. Correct, thank you. Any of that water, and I don't know if there's any comment from anyone in here on that. But the best we can do, and all we control is sewer, is the best we can do is try to minimize where sewer goes, and only where it is truly of need, that you just cannot put a system in, on site. And that's a perfect example of these extensions. We have people here who just cannot get their systems, repaired properly to standards. So that's why we're going there.
And we certainly understand that, and we support that. The only point that we want to make is, once again, we are ready, willing, and able to discuss these and other issues that might come under the purview of the Sewer Commission as it pertains to the Lunenburg Water District, so that we could work cooperatively to hopefully mitigate this issue, as has been identified as a big issue within the town, as evidenced by the appropriation and what have you. So we wanted to go on record to let you know that we can be reached at 978-342-9211. Thanks.
Thank
May
you.
I ask
Thank you,
one
Mr. Rogers.
question?
Sure. Just one, right?
Obviously, one question.
Okay, that's fine.
You guys would have a better handle on the recharge system than we would, obviously.
Yes.
Is there a concern with what we're sending out of town
Absolutely.
with the recharge system? There
Absolutely.
is, on your part?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Did you agree with
Kind
that?
of what I want to know.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that yeah. Do you want to say anything about that? No? Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming out and say that. I would like to clarify for one thing, though, that the Sewer Commission, to the best of my knowledge, has never had a discussion on the water district or sending water out of Lunenburg. Some of the commissioners certainly have a lot of passionate feelings about it, but as a sewer commission, there is no position or discussion or any overlap between what our responsibility is in the sewer and the water district. So again, the sewer commission hasn't taken any position or discussed the matter. Mr. McDonald.
Good evening, guys. How you doing? A couple things to set the record really straight. It's up on Chase Road. I know we're here to help the good people here on Pleasant View and the other areas, so just one moment. When I was the chairman of the Building Reuse Committee for the DPW and the chairman of the feasibility. At one time, we talked about trying to get water to that facility for the sprinkler. Mass Building Code, you really don't need it if it has a system, and that's how we did that. But to do our job effectively, we looked at every opportunity. And one of the opportunity was to bring water down, which I talked to the water district, which was very helpful. But at that time, we were asking for water. I would have thought, and the same as the sewer does, what we do, when you get a customer, and Sue, you know, we go out and try to investigate it to serve our customers. So if I was at the DPW, I just assumed somewhere along the way, they would say, hey, we need water over on this side of town, and go do the betterment. So yes, there was a customer, it was us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Welcome back. Okay, let's move right into our 7 o'clock at 7:25. So what we'd like to do, and I really do appreciate so many people coming out, because getting the word out is important, and you never know who reads letters and all these things. So it's great to have you here, and I hope you have some good questions. We're going to have a short presentation by Kevin Olson, who is the project engineer, project manager on this, not the engineer. This project, Kevin goes way back with us. His firm, Wright Pierce, and Kevin was project manager for our CWMP. So he's very, very familiar with Lunenburg in general and all of these areas that we're talking about. And the CWMP, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, which is basically our Bible. It really, again, we looked at the entire town, looked at all the soils, looked at the Title V reports, looked at all these things to determine where needs were and weren't. Nobody had to tell you that you were in the needs area, but so Kevin has a lot of background there. Kevin's going to give a presentation on where we are in that project, give you a little insight into dates going forward, when there's some key points where you need to make some input to the process, which is why I'm really happy to see such interest, because there are some decisions that you need to make and make you aware of it. So he'll make that presentation. We will touch on, just very briefly in one view graph, the Pleasant View extension, which is a little behind this one, but we're working like heck to catch it up. So we want to give you some insight into what we're doing to catch Pleasant View up to this project so that we can have one big cost-effective project. So Kevin will give a presentation. We'll have whatever questions you have, and then we'll move on. So Kevin, if you would please. And everyone, unfortunately, the view graph machine is behind you, so if you could turn your chairs around or however you...
180 degrees for everybody.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm sorry I didn't bring the popcorn for you guys tonight. This is a great turnout. Hopefully the excitement of this presentation didn't deter you from having a good Memorial Day weekend as well. So I tend to wander a little bit when I talk, so you'll have to put up with me. As Carl said, I've been working with Wright Pierce for a number of years and working with the town of Lunenburg for a number of years. Started a handful of years ago on the CWMP, so I'm very familiar with the town as it relates to wastewater. So a spinoff of that is there's a couple of areas, as you guys know, because you live there, Pratt and Lakeview Ave areas. The plan is to, maybe give a 10 to 15-minute presentation and leave plenty of time for you guys to ask questions. So have plenty of discussion. So move right along here. The project team, well, you can see the project team up there, and there's a couple other members of the project team. I know Jack Rodequins is in the stands as well. So we've been working hard for the last 9 months, since I think July we got started on the design. So anyways, you can see the team there. Myself, Matt Corbin with Wright Pierce as the lead project engineer, is somewhere in California on vacation, so you are stuck with me tonight. And our newest member of the team, CJP and Sons, is the contractor. They were the successful low bidder. We're in the process right now of signing agreements with them. Should have that done this week. We did get DEP, since this is an SRF loan, State Revolving Loan Fund project. They've given the notice to award, the authorization to award. So they're on board. We're in discussions with the Sewer Commission right now about looking to have the pre-construction conference in a couple of weeks. So that's good news. And then, yes, we saved the best for last. It's you guys at this point. You've certainly rallied to get the project, moving. We've carried it through design, through bidding, and now you guys are going to get a little bit more involved, because there's going to be some people out, there soon enough ripping up the streets. So let's talk about what that means and what that looks like. I won't go down each of these, but quickly, talk about the goals, get into the details a little bit, and perhaps most importantly, talk about what it means for you guys from where we are now going forward over the next few months. So, excuse me, we'll talk a little bit about costs and a little bit about the schedule as well. So, the project, we've got two separate areas, as you guys know. Hopefully you can see that graphic. It's not overly legible, but of course we've got the Pratt Street area, and then on the right you can see there's the Lakeview Ave area. Pratt Street is part of sewer service zone or area 6, and it's basically one particular area. It's Pratt Street and Rennie Street, and then the Lakeview Ave area is part of sewer service zone 9. So those are both part of the recommended areas in the CWMP for sewer extension. So the plan obviously is to install municipal sewers to those two areas. Hopefully we'll complete the construction. So far so good. The design has been pretty much on schedule and on budget. And then, most importantly is, can we get through construction and minimize the impacts to you guys and get you what you want, and that is that municipal sewer connection. Pratt Street, just a little bit of a zoom in. That's actually a figure right out of the CWMP, so if you focus on the, well, I don't know what color that is, green, orange, yellow. You can see Pratt Street. It's about 2,000 feet long. Obviously, you guys know it runs from Wayland up to West Street. And then there's about 500 feet of Rennie Street, which is a cul-de-sac connecting into Pratt. And then, of course, Lakeview Ave area. And you got a handful of streets. We've got Cross, Pine Grove, Lakeview, Sunset, Harris Avenue. Again, you guys know the areas better than I do. So that shows you right there. And pretty much the connection is to the existing 8-inch gravity sewer up on Prospect Street. You can see at the top of the graph. So let's drill in a little bit more. It's about 9,000 feet of pipe total. It's low pressure sewer, so it's a force main. It's not a gravity sewer. So everybody that connects needs to have a pump, an individual grinder pump on their parcel. I think you guys know that pretty well by now, but let's just reinforce that. It's small diameter, anywhere from 1.5 to 3 inches, so it's not large pipe, which means smaller trench. It's not real deep, so those are usually good things. Pratt Street in particular has got a lot of utilities in it. Some of you may be aware, very well aware, that they've actually already done some work on the gas. We worked with the commission and the utility to coordinate that to frankly get it out of the way for the sewer, so that was in anticipation of doing the sewer work. On Pratt Street, you'll note there's a sub-bullet there. Again, it's 2,000 feet on Pratt and it's about 500 on Rennie. So there's 2,500 feet of trench. The reason why I showed 4,500 feet of pipe is there are some areas beyond West Street Terrace, Pleasant, Brown, I'll mess up some of the street names, that may or may not want to extend, connect to the sewer at some future date. Those are in the overall sewer service area. So we said to ourselves, we're going to dig the road up. Boy, we better do something now so if they want to connect later. So we're putting in a separate pipe. It's not going to be used now, but it could be used in the future. And it's all the cost goes into digging the trench. So throwing in an extra empty pipe made all the sense in the world. So just to clarify that, some really good thinking. Uh-oh. Nothing like forcing me to talk fast. I did start with a charged battery. Lakeview Ave area, 4,500 feet. Again, small diameter, low pressure sewer. And then with every horizontal project, there's always some ancillary appurtenances that go with it. If you have a low point, you might need a sewer clean out. Now, if you have a high point, there's an air release valve. We try to minimize those structures, but we have some. And then there's sewer connections. So install the mains on all the streets, and then we've got to put all the finger services with a cap or a stub at the property line for each of your properties. Temporary pavement will be done, so we'll basically pave the trench, and then we'll let it set through the winter. So Jack is happy that when the overlay pavement happens, sometime in 2016, that all the settlement has happened and end up with a good full width curb-to-curb overlay. So in the end, the intent is to really dress the streets out nicely. So hopefully you guys will consider that an added benefit. So let's drill in a little bit more. Some of the key considerations. Well, your continued involvement obviously is critical, and by the looks of everybody coming here, that's great. One of the key tasks that we will coordinate with the Sewer Commission at the very beginning of construction, likely sometime in the next month or two, is to coordinate exactly where to put your sewer service stub. We can look and say, well, your driveway's here, so we probably ought to put it over there. But again, we may or may not know right now where your septic system is. So there's a lot of things that we want to make sure we get right. So either a questionnaire, will probably work, Barb, with you, or some sort of mailer, some sort of form to fill out where you can tell us where you'd like us to put that stub. Makes all the sense in the world. Should there be follow-up informational meetings? I'm sure, that the commission, if they so choose, will have those if needed. So let's get into, a little bit more about what we're going to try and do to minimize things for you. We'll work hard to minimize the impacts to you. Things like, getting you in and out of your driveway during the day. The good news is Jack's done a lot of these projects. He knows how to handle that. We're going to do the best we can, working with the contractor and our day-to-day field inspector out there to make sure that we're getting you in and out. Give us a little bit of slack and have a little bit of patience, because there'll be some days where it may not go as planned. But and then traffic. Our hope is to maintain one-lane traffic every day if we can. Sometimes, construction doesn't allow you to do that. If we have to close a road for a small bit of time and make a detour, we will, and we'll have to coordinate that. So again, you might have to, have a little bit of patience, but given the size, the depth of the pipe, we feel fairly confident that we can, not have to close too many streets, if at all. Emergency vehicle access, obviously, heaven forbid that needs to happen during construction. We'll make sure that they're fully, we're in full communication with them. Coordinating with the school bus routes. We'll invite police, fire, the school bus company to the pre-construction conference and lay the project out for them and make sure that we communicate with them. And then there has been talk of continuing to use the town's website. So I know, Barb, we talked about that recently, and that's a good source for you guys to find out when and where things are happening. So if you don't use it, you may want to look to use that going forward. Picture's worth 1,000 words, right? This isn't, technically 100% accurate. It's not to scale, but it gives you a quick graphic. Some of you are probably very comfortable with what it's going to look like. To some of you, it might be a little new. So it's in section view. You can see your home. That grinder pump would be the new grinder pump unit. And if you could just imagine, that maybe being your septic tank goes or is abandoned, and that's put in right near that. So you have to pipe from the building to the new grinder pump unit, and then from the grinder pump unit over to the low pressure sewer, cap. We didn't show the cap there, but the stub that's left. So that's really in a nutshell what your property could look like to make the connection. Let's keep talking about that. So you will have to, the individual property owners, as you guys know, are responsible for owning, operating, and maintaining your grinder pump unit and your service connection. So you'll have to hire a local contractor to install the sewer service from the building, you know, to the grinder pump unit, and from the grinder pump unit to that stub. And the town right now, no decisions, you know, the sewer commission, we've been assisting them, hasn't made any decisions on what grinder pump vendors are the ones that will be the ones, you'll ultimately make that decision, but we're working with them to nail down, you know, if there's one or a couple of vendors potentially that could be used. There's 2 out of a handful that actually meet the technical or hydraulic requirements, but we're also working with them right now to see if we can help reduce cost. Again, keep your pocketbook in mind. Extending warranties, and maybe some other value-added options. So the Sewer Commission has some information from us, and they'll be working on that near term and making some decisions. They may, you know, put some do's and don'ts out there for you guys as you go to make that purchase and get that work done. So, project costs. Some or most of you, maybe all of you, know that a year ago at the annual town meeting in 2014, I assisted the commission, and Carl and I made a presentation. At that time, early project costs, total project costs, were about 2.2, and we thought they were conservative, and they're proving to be that way for now. So if you did the math and said 80 total properties and divide 2.2 by 80, you got $27,500 as an estimated betterment cost. The point I want to make to you tonight, and the commission wants to make to you tonight, is we're trending down, which is a good thing. But please, you know, I got to leave a little caveat, a little wiggle room here. Don't hold us to this number yet. Don't hold the commission to that number yet. That $1.84 million number still does have some contingency built into it, but we haven't put the shovel in the ground. So, you know, we're hoping that we've done everything right so far, but during construction, some things can happen. So, again, that $23,000 number isn't cast in stone, but I think we're trending the right way. That's the betterment cost. In addition to that, the private property costs, and again, I'm hoping that this isn't breaking news to most of you, is around $10,000 depending on your individual property. Every property is different. Your length of pipe may be longer. You may have a different type of septic system than everybody else. It could range out a little higher than that, as you can see. And you can see the breakdown. $4,000, we're hoping that the grinder pump units can be purchased for less than that. As I said a minute ago, we're working right now to see what we can do to bring those down. And then there's the cost to install the grinder pump unit and the service piping. You got to decommission your existing septic system. Typical costs are about $1,000. And then last but not least, it's a pump unit. You need to provide power. It's a 1 horsepower unit. It's the equivalent of another large appliance. So, you know, my point there is it's not going to crank your electric bill up a lot. And it's usually a simple connection to your breaker panel. If you have a spare already in there, great. You power from the breaker panel to the little panel for the pump, and then from the pump control panel to the pump unit. Sure. Sure.
This presentation will also be on the website.
What does that mean? Estimated property, private costs, 10 to 12 hours.
You guys want to hold for questions until the young Carl, or? I'll answer that. Yeah, the estimated private property cost was a question from this gentleman. Again, the responsibility on your individual property is to purchase the grinder pump and to hire a local contractor to actually install the pump and to run the piping, as I had showed in the graphic before. So the estimated private property costs are in addition to that betterment that we show up top there. So if you add those two together, that would be your total estimated cost. So hopefully that helps clarify that a little bit. Did that help you a little bit, sir? No. Okay.
He answered his question.
Okay. We can come back to that if you'd like when we get to Q&A. Okay. Almost to the finish line here, and then we'll fully open it up for you guys. Just a couple more slides. So the tentative schedule, again, so far, the project has been going fairly well in terms of schedule. We have the pre-construction conference in a couple of weeks. We do not have yet a schedule or a proposed schedule from CJP and Sons, the installing contractor. They're working on that now. So we're guesstimating here a little bit, but our guesstimate suggests that, I think if we're being honest, probably starting construction after July 4th. If for some reason they're, have crews that are really ready to go and they can get the shop drawings in and the pipe approved and ordered and on site, maybe they start late June, but I think for planning purposes, we're probably more realistically thinking about July. The intent is for them to go hard for about 5 months and get the work done by Thanksgiving. As we all know that, we don't like to, and there really isn't much pavement mix available much after that, as Jack can attest to. And again, I think I'd already said before too, the plan would be to not have any work in the roads during the winter. Hopefully next winter won't be as bad as this one, but let the trenches settle. The good news here is if all goes according to plan, you don't have to wait for the pavement, the final overlay pavement in 2016 to happen before you can start connecting. So if the pipe is all done by Thanksgiving, it's tested, we're comfortable, the town's comfortable, Jack's happy, DEP's happy, you could start connecting as early in the winter. Now again, a winter like last year may prevent you from doing that anyway, but nonetheless. And then, I've already mentioned about the pavement overlay, and right now the commission is thinking that betterments would be assessed sometime in the summer of 2016, but I'm assuming that will be adjusted as needed. And Carl already set us up for this one, Pleasant View Ave. So this project is primarily Pratt and Lakeview. Well, there's a potential third area that's just been approved at annual town meeting, Pleasant View. Some quick stats on it. It's about 600 feet. It's actually a little bit less. This will be a gravity sewer connection. That's actually a picture I took back, I think it was in March. If most of you have been there, it's a fairly steep slope, so it can get into the existing sewer on Graham by gravity. Anticipated start would be early in July, since it was just voted. My understanding is that funding would not be available and could not start until after July 1st, so that's the magic behind. Did he just lose the battery?
Kevin, you want to try mine?
I think I just lost the battery. Well, I guess the good news is I was pretty much to the end anyway. So, just to close on Pleasant View, there was some discussion earlier about when you dig the road up, could there be some other utility work done there? Well, as the engineer, sure, we could, but that's not our decision to make. But there has been some discussions about water, gas, and if there's any drainage. So once that gets started, we'll certainly take a look to see if the town wants to do any other utility work on Pleasant View. So that being said, the last slide was basically just some email addresses, and I'm sure you guys know how to connect with Barb and Carl on the board, and we're also available too. I'm assuming that most of you guys would want to go through the commission if you wanted to have some questions for us. So I don't know how I did on time, but I guess my battery timed me out anyway.
Well done, Kevin. Thank you. Maybe just on that communication part, to follow up on that, we are passing around a sheet that if you want to get email communication, if you put your name on that and your email address, we'd be happy to send you information as it comes. But we will keep the website as up to date as we can with what's going to happen in the next weeks, or when construction will start, or if there's any issues that you should be aware of. I don't think we're expecting, Jack, I don't think we're expecting any major traffic sort of issues or closings of road or anything like that, right? We should have continuous operation. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Jack Rodikins. I'm Public Works Director. I think mostly in these projects it's what you see. The mechanics and that all means something to you, and it's very, very important. But what's important to you is what's happening on top of the ground. So depending upon what time of year it is, there's a standing rule that no matter where we are in the roadway, rest assured that we'll always get public safety vehicles to your home if needed, police, fire. Also, if school hasn't closed yet, or if it opens up in the fall, we're determined to keep the buses rolling as well. We will never we will try not to ever just close a road without informing you about what we're doing. And we will never put detour sign in front of the road that just it's a detour to nowhere. I think some of you back in let me see, well, in the early 2000s with the larger sewer projects were pretty confused. We had traffic going each and every way, but we'll always have detail officers there for your safety and for your information, and we'll try to make it as smooth a job as we can. When you do any sort of subsurface construction, there's always problems. You don't know what's under the ground, so we can't say for sure exactly what's going to happen. But from our point, and to answer the question in terms of roadway and traffic flow, we'll keep that going as smoothly as possible.
Great. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Kevin?
Yeah, actually, Carl, if I could, just to close on Pleasant View, since the slide went away. In terms of schedule, it's not cast in stone yet, but we've talked with the commission about Plan A being getting the design started in early July. Get it done, so get the design drawings done, and then ask CJP, the installing contractor for Pratt and Lakeview Ave areas. They're already on board. They're going to be here. They're mobilized. Ask them to put a price to that. So the plan is to do that, and then if the commission is happy and or can negotiate a reasonable price for that work, then maybe change order that, add that via change order to their contract. So it saves time, it saves money, and I think, Carl, you touched on that before. So I just wanted to reinforce that. If it doesn't work out that way, Plan B still could be, and you still have the option to go ahead and bid it separately, like you did Pratt and Lakeview, put it out to bid, and then get a separate contractor again. So then you'd have two separate contractors. It's not the best plan, so I just wanted to share that with you. And then in terms of schedule, so if we put the design together in July and August, and there's, let's say, agreed upon pricing in September. Don't hold me to this. Could CJP and Sons do they have could they put an extra crew on it? Do they have, the horses in the stable, so to speak, to go ahead and get right after that this fall? There's a chance. So, that's the optimistic view, but if everything went the way it could, and Murphy's Law didn't apply, there's a chance that by Thanksgiving, Pleasant View, could be done as well. Do not hold me to that. Don't hold the commission to that, but that just kind of closes the story there, so I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Kevin. I would open it up to questions from the people. Ma'am, if you could come up to the, please, ma'am. If you could come up to the microphone so people at home can hear you as well, and state your name and address would be greatly appreciated. Sorry about that.
Caroline Fagette, 120 Pratt Street, Lunenburg. I just had a question about why we need a pump-up system.
Okay.
When we have West Street Terrace and everything's all above us, everything's going to run down the hill. Everyone has water in their basement. Why do we need a pump-up system?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can let the engineers give the technical details if you'd like those, but at the end of Pratt Street, as you recall, there's a dip.
Yeah, we're at the very top.
Before you get up onto Whalum. And unfortunately, the pipe on Whalum is too high to flow into it.
Okay.
So it all ended up at the bottom of that dip.
Also, I want to know, what about the betterment? How is that going on our taxes? Or do we have to pay in full? Or?
Yeah, you have the option. You can pay in full if you like. I don't know why you would.
I don't think so.
We have very low SRF loans, which is great. The state has these very low interest loans, so you can spread it over 20 years, and it would be on your tax bill. It can be on your tax bill, and I think it's twice a year.
Also, we have an apartment over our garage. Are we going to get charged 2 betterment fees?
The fees go by units. So if there's 2 units, if there's 2 residences, then there's 2 units.
Okay. Do you have any questions? No. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Go on.
Hi, Dan Proctor, 1529 Mass Ave. Couple of quick questions. The tie-in fees, are there tie-in fees or is that covered by the betterment?
There are connection fees as well, and there's a I&I fee and a capacity fee.
That was not on his slide.
They were not on this. They were not on the slides.
Okay, so that would be an additional cost, a tie-in fee. Okay. Also, just a suggestion, other towns that I've dealt with, they buy the pumps in a lump sum, and then the homeowner actually buys the pump from the sewer department, and then the contractor installs it. That way, we have the same type of pumps, so that there's constant, mechanical needs for these pumps. If there's one manufacturer of pump company out there, it's a lot simpler.
Right.
Just a suggestion, it keeps the contractor out of the purchasing of the pump and marking it up and charging homeowners different costs, so that there's a confusion there. Some municipalities actually buy the pump for each house as that person wants to tie in.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Also, if there's a piece of property that's in a 61B, would that property be bettered?
Bettered, but it's allowed to be deferred.
I'm sorry?
It's in our bylaw that if they are in chapter, it can be deferred, but they'll be bettered, and then they have to
But it's
apply
just
to the-
deferred once that property is taken
As
out
long
of
as
that.
it's in chapter,
If
yeah.
it does, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, well, great comments. And maybe I could just, because the grinder pump is, as Kevin said, there's been lots and lots of discussion on the grinder pumps. Also, we've been doing a lot of work. The worst thing in the world, and I'll speak for Dave McDonald, who isn't here, because he was one of the biggest advocates, is to try to give people a choice and not lock everybody into one grinder pump, and then you are at their mercy, so to speak. The system that we're putting in, which is a very good system and very common across the state, there are 2 pumps that we've identified that meet the technical specs. So to the last speaker's comment, they need to work together. Ideally, if they're all the same pump, then they will all work together because they all have the same characteristics. That forces you into one pump. And most towns do, as you said, and we've talked on many towns, Chelmsford, that they will define the pump that gets used. I know Harvard just went through the same thing, and they define the pump. And there is one premier pump manufacturer that supplies most of the pumps that we see. They are the pump guy. But we're working very hard to try to make sure that we don't, by design, force it in that direction. So we found 2 pump people. One of them has very little history in the area, makes us a little nervous, a little different price. We're going to keep trying to go in that direction, and if at all possible, give you the choice between these 2. They're not great choices because you've got one guy that is very, very well known and a lot of history, and one guy who's trying to really get in the business. But I'm hoping that we can leave that decision to you. As long as our system works well and the neighbors' systems work okay into that system, then we would like it if we could define 2 pumps. So that's where we are with that. Is we're tying down what the requirement on the pump is as opposed to who the pump is. But on the other side, to that point, whether it's 1 or 2, we've already started conversations with one of these pump manufacturers to lock in an arrangement so that it's not everybody goes and gets a price. That we will pre-negotiate an agreement with him for the pricing that every resident should be able to get. May not be able to get it forever because these things get complicated, right? The agreement may be if you get the pump within a year, then he'll lock the price in for you. But outside of that year, then you may be on your own. Then the other thing that he's already talked to us about is perhaps we can get extended warranties as part of the agreement. Instead of the 1-year warranty, perhaps we can negotiate a 3-year warranty. So we're very sensitive to this pump issue. But the town, it's not in the town's best interest to take on the pumps and have pumps, sitting on your property. So we've made a firm decision that the pumps need to stay under the control of the residents, and we're just trying to give you as much choice as you can over your destiny, as long as we have a system that works properly. There was another question, sir.
Hi, my name is Kevin Rice, 9 Pleasant View. So I guess it's my understanding, I have the 2-family house on Pleasant View. So I'm looking at $40,000 in betterments plus a $10,000 connection fee. So I'm looking at 50 grand. I could put in a brand new engineered septic system for 25, number one. Number two, I want to know if your newest sewer commission member, Sue, is going to be recuse herself from some of these decisions. seeing as she's spoken to my son several times and myself to try to get me to change my vote because I voted against it. I have a fine septic system. Why should I spend $50,000 of my money because other people's septic systems are failing? Is that fair? And I want to know if she's going to recuse herself from some of the decisions that are being made, because I feel that she approached my son multiple times and myself she spoke to me on the phone to try to get me to change my decision. Now, the other thing is, how do people get access to who voted? That should, to me, and open meeting law, I understand that. That should be kept confidential. Why should my vote be made public until the commission either approves or denies it? So I'd appreciate an answer to both of those questions.
Okay. I'll answer the second one first because I remember it. The documents that people agreed what the vote was is public information, so that information is available. I'm not sure what you meant by the commission approves it. I mean, we're going forward with the extension, so it is approved. It's.
Well, no, I get that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Okay. So the vote was is public information. It's one thing we're very sensitive to, and it's unfortunate. I mean, not everyone wants sewer. We're so sensitive to it that we've normally on betterments, the normal betterment rule is that if 50% plus one of the people want to do a betterment, whatever the betterment would be in a town, that's normally enough. Because of this issue, that it's a pretty serious impact to people.
Well, if you take interrupt you, but if you take that seriously,
but you did.
Consider it an ethics violation for one of your sewer committee members.
Yeah.
Can I speak
I haven't gotten there.
Immediately approach us to change our vote.
Yeah.
If you take this serious, answer that question.
Yeah.
Could I speak on my own behalf?
Yes.
Go ahead, Susan.
I was not even approached until the LIDE was approved to run for sewer commission, and I felt it was a good opportunity because I'd be happy to help out after going through the process for so long and trying to obtain sewer on my road as a private resident.
The requirements for recusing yourself are pretty clear, and we stick to them very rigorously. And the only way around them is to get an opinion from the State Ethics Commission. So if you are an abutter, now any member is free to recuse himself, even if they think there's any possible indication of a conflict, and that's normally what members will do. But that's up to the member to declare whether they are recusing themselves or not. Yes, sir.
Henry Landchain, 114 Pratt Street.
Thank you.
Question, the betterment of 23,000, say, or whatever it ends up being, that's going to be spread out over 20 years, you say, at what interest rate?
I don't.
And the other part of that question is, will that be the exact same amount every single month throughout the course? I understand there's a decreasing interest way to do this too, that works out so you'd be paying a heck of a lot more on the front end and less on the back end.
Great questions. I don't know the answers. I don't know what the SRF interests are running right now.
Well, the overall SRF loan is equivalent 2% for the entire project.
2%, okay.
But in terms of interest on the betterment, that might be a better question for the carrier, something like that from the town.
So we can find out the answer for you.
The grinder pump issue has really just thrown me off. That's I wasn't planning on that. I understood most times it's cost $2,000 to hook up in other towns. Again, I understand because of the grinder pump that much more. But obviously we're going to have to go out and get our own money or finance that, because there's going to be no financing for that portion of the sewer through...
Correct.
Okay. And do you know what the property values are on Pratt Street?
I do not.
Okay. Well, I know Carolyn could answer this better than me. But you're probably... I think I have an average house on that street. I don't think I can get $200,000 for my house. Okay, and I know other houses have gone out for sale that haven't been able to get $200,000. They're adding $35,000 to a $200,000 house.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's just a comment from me.
And that's fine.
And the last one is, can this be reversed?
No, we're going forward. I do suspect, though, that having sewer on Pratt Street will increase the value of the houses on Pratt Street.
Up by $35,000.
Didn't say by how much, but I'm pretty sure the houses will be a little more secure. There was another point.
Well, can it be reversed? That was the question.
Not that I'm aware of. I would never say never.
You think it'll add $50,000 value to my two-family?
I have no idea what it'll add. I also would say, though, if you
Then I just dumped $100,000 in to try to get it to look nice after I put it up.
if
I'm gonna add another 50 grand. And is my pipe any bigger than anyone else's?
Can you come up to the microphone?
yeah,
and speak?
because people at home can't hear you, sir.
Question or comment?
Is my connection on my two-family going to be any bigger than anyone else's connection? Is the labor involved in running that pipe to my house going to be any bigger? I'm not an engineer, but you know what? I've worked in construction, and I can tell you it's not. So why am I going to be paying $50,000 and everybody else is paying? Why? I'm the only two-family on that street.
That's the way the betterment system works, and that's the way the unit
that's fair?
system works. It's been applied across the 700 people in town already, and there are people that have more units than you do, I'm afraid. It's the fair way to do it. If you have 2 units, then you benefit more.
How do you figure can the engineer answer my question? Is there any additional labor or additional equipment to make mine worth $50,000? Yes or no?
No.
Now, do you still think that's fair?
Yes.
You do? Well, maybe you want to buy my house.
The one thing you could do, if you don't require sewer, which it sounds like you don't need to connect. So you can save that $20,000.
I still pay the betterment.
The betterment you'll pay, but not the $20,000 for the pump and everything else. So you only pay $30,000.
Pleasant View is gravity fed, so there's no grinder pump on Pleasant View, if I understand the concept
Oh,
correct.
Pleasant View? Yeah,
But I'm
Pleasant View,
still,
you're right.
so the cost for me to connect is minimal.
So,
The cost for me, the betterment to me is $40,000.
yeah, okay.
I'll never
Sorry,
recoup that.
misunderstood.
He's worried about 20 grand. Now I'm worried about 40 grand.
Yeah. I don't know what to say to you. That's the way the system works.
And I agree with him. Can this be reversed? Can this decision be reversed?
I'm not aware of any process for reversing it, but doesn't mean it's not possible. Any other questions? Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. I have 4 questions. The first of which is, it's my understanding that the state revolving fund interest rate is 2%, and it is anticipated that the good folks here will be charged 4%. Is that correct?
It is usually, we did take a difference. I forget how it was done with the prior project, but it's not exactly, because there's other monies involved that the town is borrowing that are not SRF qualified, so there is an average taken on what the remaining monies are used and what rate we get, so it's an average.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question. It's not a straight pass-through for the cost of the funds. There's add-ons to it that escalate and increase that percentage rate.
I don't know that. We'd have to find out.
Well, historically it has. I mean, you add on. Historically,
Okay.
you've added on,
Well,
correct?
maybe you'd like to tell us the answer then.
It's my understanding that it's 4%.
We'll see. We'll look into that.
Okay. The next question I have is that on my residence at 82 Highland Street, we have a 4-inch PVC pipe that leads under the house into the septic tank itself. I can't for the life of me understand how an 1.5 inch in diameter pipe up to a 3-inch is sufficient to handle this kind of a situation, which leads me to the next question. When something goes wrong, whose responsibility is it to pay, and who do they call?
I think the diameter question would be best answered by the engineer. And the responsibility question's easy, though. If it's on the town property, if it's the connection or in the street, it's the town's responsibility. If it's on the residence side of the connection, it's the resident's
So
responsibility.
how does one determine that? I mean, if you're plugged, what do you do? Do you call the town, or do you call a plumber, or, because you don't know?
First thing I would do would be to call a plumber.
Plumber, okay. So, I mean, these good folks have to understand that, then. Sir?
Good question on the size of the pipe. The pipe you talked about, the 4-inch gravity connection from the building to the grinder pump unit, now that's standard size for a gravity connection. But remember, when it goes to the pump unit, there's a pump in there that then pumps it under pressure through the force main. So the force mains typically are smaller because you're putting a higher flow and a higher pipe velocity through that. So basically it's sized to maintain anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 feet per second. So that's pretty much standard sizing for these pressure sewers, whether it was a low pressure sewer or any of the pump stations. That's pretty much standard.
Okay, let me ask you a very basic common sense question.
Sure.
Would you be better off to have a larger diameter pipe or a smaller diameter pipe?
In this particular case, you want the smaller diameter pipe because you're pumping it under pressure, and you want to have a velocity that will flush your solids through. If you have a bigger pipe on the force main, you're going to have a lower velocity, and you're going to have a better chance for those solids to settle out and perhaps cause some plugs. So you want to maintain that scour velocity. The industry standard, TR16, not that matters, suggests you don't want to go less than 2 feet per second. So as we design the system, when you have more connections as you work downstream, you have higher flow and higher velocities, so you can have a larger pipe. But when you're at the very end of the system and you only have a couple of pump units connected, you've got lower flow, lower velocity, and better chance to settle out. So hopefully that helped clarify a little bit.
Okay. The last question I have, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Thank you. The last question I have, Mr. Chairman, is that when the presentation was made, I think my memory serves me correctly, there was a charge of $23,000 plus another charge of $12,000. Is that correct?
I think it was a range on the second one because it's unknown. It's user dependent.
Okay. Was 12,000 the highest?
I think it was 10 to 12, maybe something like that.
Okay. And then I heard there's some other expenses involved?
Yes, there's a connection fee.
Why weren't they placed up there so the good folks could understand what their total expenses would be?
It was an oversight. We apologize.
Sorry?
It was an oversight.
I didn't hear you.
It was an oversight.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting at is, and I would want to know what the total cost would be, so that you could. These folks are going to have to finance a lot of stuff. Plus, they're going to have to pay for a lot of stuff up front. So I think that in the spirit of full disclosure, they should know exactly what the total cost would be. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you're absolutely right. And I apologize. When it was being presented, we just had a conversation with Barb with the connection fees up there.
I have a comment.
Just one second. Let me just answer that if I could, please. That the rest of the costs are the connection fee, which is a fee, quite frankly, that we pay to Fitchburg and Leominster, depending on where it's going. And there is an I&I fee, which is the connection fees is $2,200, $2,250.
Right, 660.
I&I
Well,
is
220 for bedroom on I&I.
220 per bed. Yeah, so if it's 220 for bedroom on the I&I, so a 3-bedroom would be $660, and then the capacity is
$1.87.
$1.87.
It's usually about $205 per bedroom.
It's around another couple $100 per bedroom. So that's 3-bedroom would be another $600. One time, yes.
So what was that total added up?
We have to add it up.
Depends on the number of bedrooms.
It depends on the number of bedrooms, which is why we're struggling here. So 3-bedroom house would be $2,250 connection, $660
I&I.
for the I&I, and
$205
about $205. Were you adding, I hope? No. About $3,000, $3,100, I'm told up front. And that's a one-time, at the time of connection. Another question, sure.
if you sell your property, that betterment has to be paid at passing, is that correct? It can't be given to the next owner coming in?
It can be, yes.
It can be?
Yeah.
So you can pass that along to someone else coming in?
It can follow the title.
Okay.
Troy still need to talk?
I'm sorry, Troy, I almost forgot. 1 second, let me take Bob.
Robert Ebersol, 94 Main Street. For people who want to know in Lunenburg where these grinder pumps already are, if you go to Stone Farm Development, the condos, those are all grinder pumps, which were all installed separately, and they all paid the connection fee at that time. And I know personally when we sold my mother's condo there, the betterment passed to the next owner. So that is traditionally done in Massachusetts, but that may be between the property owner and the seller. Okay. Lunenburg, that's very common to be done.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I want to clarify that. My previous life, I was a banker, and this is not a situation that is automatic. The folks that hold the mortgage must agree to this. And if they agree, it can be passed on, and if they choose for whatever reason not to, it's got to be paid. But it's an arrangement that has to be made with the lender and the resident, so it's not a fait accompli.
Thank you. Mr. Daniels? No? Okay. With trepidation, I say, thank you. You come on up.
Hi, Ray Moran, 65 Pratt Street. I know there was discussion on Pratt that there's going to be more than one sewer line put in for future expansion. Are we paying for that now? And then I know in the past when we've done tie-ins like that, the contractor's eaten the cost of the line, and then as the future expansion goes on, if they wanted to go Brown Ave, whatever,
right.
After that, then they would pay the contractor back.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. One of the things that happens in the process is once the system is in, and this happened on the phase one with our 700 customers right now, is once the total costs are known, then we look at apportioning the betterments, and we take a look at any extraordinary circumstances. If, for instance, these areas may not apply, but if there's developable land or we think that there are additional people that will benefit in the future, we can actually set aside some of those costs. So that might be, and I don't know, we haven't discussed it clearly, but that might be a case for that, where we would set that cost aside for future connections and future people connecting to the system who will also have to pay this betterment in order to connect.
Is that included in the 1.84?
Yes.
I got a hearing aid, so I'm
It's in that number. We don't know what you're paying yet, quite frankly.
Fiore.
Yes, sir.
I just want to know what the total cost is. You say you've got a $23,000 betterment fee, and then you've got another $10,000 or $12,000 on that? Is that correct?
Yes. Pratt and Lakeview, right?
Huh?
You're in Rennie. Okay, yes. So far
Now,
you've got
is that 10 or 12
23,
an accumulation of the hookup and all that? Or is that separate besides that?
Yeah, right now there's three major cost elements. There's the 23,000, which is the current estimate. We don't know where that'll land.
Wait a minute, I can't hear you.
There's the 23,000, which is the current estimate.
For betterment.
For betterment.
Yeah.
Okay, and that could be plus or minus. It was 27 at town meeting, quite frankly.
Yeah.
There's the 10 to 12 for grinder pumps, installation, electrical, dismantling your septic.
All those things.
All those things are in the 10 to 12.
Now what if you don't hook up?
If you don't hook up, it's only the betterment.
It's just only the betterment?
Correct.
Okay. That might have been.
Oh, no, but there was one more thing added to it.
The connection fee. I didn't get quite to it. Yeah. So there's a third element, which is the connection fee. So today, at today's meeting, what we're looking at as at the upper end, using the 12,000, is upwards of $38,000. 3, 6, 8. I'm sorry. Yeah. 38,000. If you connect.
One last question, and then I'm shutting up. Do you think that when the people all start to understand all these extra fees and what it involves, you think this vote would have gone the same way?
We were pretty clear in the letters that were sent out. We were pretty clear about the estimate of the betterment and the connection fees.
Nah, my memory doesn't think the same way. So, and I think just by the consensus of the people here, I don't think they thought that either. I think they said, great, we're going to get sewer put in, this is fantastic. Now it's like, okay, it's going to cost this, it's going to cost that, it's going to cost this. Now I didn't see anything in there about a two-family being double. Right. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think people would have voted different. When Sue called me, she called me because they needed one more vote on Pleasant View, asking me to reconsider my vote. Because if I didn't reconsider my vote, people would feel septics couldn't get their water and their sewer in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I'm a little bit put out. The whole process, I'm a little bit put out. I'm not saying there were any backdoor deals going on, but it just, there's a lot of information here that didn't come out. It's coming out tonight. And if I was a betting man, I'd be willing to bet you the vote would have gone the other way.
Sir.
Greg Stevens, 29 Lakeview, and I just wanted to state that when I signed the petition, I was told, I signed it because I was told it was going to be about $15,000. That's all I wanted to say. Those bringing the petition around probably should have been more informed. So we're way above double that now.
Yeah, I don't know where the 15,000 came from. Nobody on our side was.
Erin Healy, 43 yes. Pratt Street. So I purchased my house on Pratt Street in October, and we signed a deal with the bank that the seller was going to pay the tie-in fee, and that we would pay the betterment. But now I'm confused about what the actual tie-in fee is, because it sounds like the tie-in fee is separate than this $10,000 to $12,000 personal cost.
The connection fee.
I can only, yeah, that he meant connection fee,
yeah,
right,
so
for the tie-in.
The connection fee, tie-in fee.
Right.
So, and you know, the town had to be contacted about that. So nobody stated at that time that there were 3 separate fees. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem, but just yeah,
I'm not sure how what was discussed. I was not there.
Two more quick questions. Bella Fury again. First of all, if you connect, can you use your own contractor?
Yes.
Huh?
You need to use your own contractor, yes.
I can use my own contractor to hook me up?
You have to, yes.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, does a wounded World War II veteran get any relief, or you throw him under the bus?
You get my thanks to begin with. You get my thanks. My father was also a wounded World War II veteran, so I appreciate your service. I'm not aware of any discounts, though.
Yeah, wow.
Nor throwing under the bus, none of that.
Lori Coons, 10 Rennie. I have several questions. I'll start with the easiest one, I think, first. The sewer service stub that they mentioned was the homeowner needed to determine where that would be placed in the presentation. So who do you contact to do that?
The engineers will be reaching out to the residents.
You'll provide us?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have to hook up if we don't want to.
Nope.
The other thing that he had mentioned was about, and this gentleman back here brought it up, about the pipe going to West Street Terrace, possibly Brown, other areas. And you haven't decided whether or not that's going to be part of our project. And I don't see where that would be fair to us, because Whalum was done and no pipes were run for us, and we were going to be a future.
Mm-hmm.
When this was first brought up, initially, this was a $5,000, way back years, the first time, this was a $5,000 betterment project. Now the betterment is possibly $23,000. And then you add these other fees. that this gentleman had in his presentation. You said that the connection fee was $22.50. The I&I fee is $220 per bedroom. If you have 3 or more bedrooms, it's $600. And then there's also another fee that one time we were watching the Sewer Commission, and it's a fee that started with this project after we all signed the form, and it was like $100, which is a small amount considering all these other fees, but it was to like help with future rate increases with Leominster and Fitchburg, and I don't recall what you called it, but it was starting with our project. Yes.
No, the only other fee
it's like
is what
$125.
it's called a capacity fee. It's $1.87 a gallon, but it's essentially 200 and some odd dollars
Okay, so
for a
that's another
three-bedroom
fee
house. But
that's
it didn't
not-
start. It has nothing to do with this development.
There was something that was going to start with our development.
No.
I do recall that. And this gentleman over here is right. When that petition came around, we were also told it was $15,000. It would be $15,000 for, all this, the installation of whatever they needed to install, and then the connection and everything else. So it did sound very affordable in the scheme of things, but it is sounding very high now. And the other point I want to make was when we were talking about the loan being 2%, but the average, because the town has put other things in there that we're going to borrow from, so they give us an average. Why, we didn't know that other things were going to be added, so why would we have to pay the higher percentage on it? That's just wrong. I mean, it does seem like a lot of things were, sound like it was going to be a rosy thing, and made people think, oh, my basement floods, now the sewer comes in, we won't have flooding basements anymore, and so people signed up for it, and now it is very different, and it's discouraging because it doesn't feel honest to me. So I don't know what your decision's going to be on that, the future pipe laying of these other roads, but I don't think it's right to stick it on ours because there's been other projects in our area and we didn't benefit from it. So, I just want to say that.
Just on that last point, we certainly, as I say, we haven't looked at the costs and how to fairly proportion them, and that is, one of the things that we try to stick to in this comprehensive wastewater plan is that there are people beyond Pratt Street that are also in a needs area and may need to be connected because of the approach we had to take with the low pressure. You could not design a system that would, it's back to the diameter and all that high technical stuff.
Right.
You couldn't design a system that you could service the Pratt Street now and then just come in the end of it with another whole extension. You couldn't design that system. So that's why, and the principle that we work on is that when we do an extension, you need to be able to continue, that we go so far up a street because only that many people want it, but the people up above may need it in the future, and you don't want to come back and rip up the whole street and start all over again. So the decision was made because it's only the cost of the pipe. The hole is there, it's not a different hole, it's not a different trench or anything else, it's put in the trench, that the most cost-effective way to protect for the future was that way. Now, should that cost be on these residents? It sounds like there's a good case that might be one of the costs that we need to put aside for the next phase.
Right.
It's not a big number, I'm sure. The pipe, I don't know the cost of per foot of pipe, but it's
well, it depends, because how our area, it goes Pratt, Rennie, and then it's stopping at the end of West, and from what I understand, the man at the end of the house that faces Pratt, they're going to be able to connect, which is fine. But if you go down West Street Terrace and around the other one, and then down West, and then head up Pleasant to hit Brown, that's a lot of pipe. And a majority, I don't know if it's a majority, but I think a large quantity of the residents in Pratt Rennie area are retired, and these numbers, I would think if you're on a fairly fixed income, or even if you're not on a fixed income, they add up quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it doesn't seem very good. And the last thing I want to ask is, and maybe Mr. Rodequins could maybe pitch in here. We're Rennie. Our road got tore, you know, our road was in bad shape. It was the original road from whenever that development was built in the 60s or 50s. And it's never had anything done to it. And with all the equipment going through with the gas lines, really broke it up even more. And I'm wondering, is that, to have our road repaved, is that a cost added into this project that really should be the town's cost to pay to pave our road? Do you know what I'm asking?
I'm not entirely sure, but I'll just answer it by saying this. Anytime that we go through road with this project, this kind of project, we always want to add the pavement into it, so it's better than new. Did the gas company, I think we spoke on the phone, did we? Okay. Right, and I told you at that time that at the conclusion of the project, not only would the road be paved, but your driveway apron would be paved as well, as part of the project.
Right, but what I'm asking is, if that was, the road should be maintained by the town.
Oh, there's no question.
So
there's no question.
Why was it included? Why would the pavement?
Because it was the only chance for that road within the next, I don't know how many years, to get paved at all.
So essentially, the residents of these areas are going to pay for the repaving of their roads.
That's correct.
That the town really should pay for.
Well, that's your opinion. I respect that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Nancy Beach, 180 Cross Road. Maybe our banker could answer this. For those people who are retired and are fixed income, are those loans guaranteed to these people, or do they have to go through an application process and be approved?
No, the loan.
For financing the 23,000?
Right, yeah. No, there's no separate application. It's
guaranteed?
It's guaranteed. It's through the town.
I'm done after this.
Okay.
The contractors list for people that are going to come in and do the other service, you know, the grinder pump and all that stuff. Is that going to have to be an approved list, approved by the Department of Public Works or something like that, of contractors, or can I just have anybody come in and do it?
Licensed drain layer.
It falls under the town's requirements. There's nothing really to do directly with the sewer commission, but there needs to be a licensed drain layer.
Okay, but it has to be an approved list from the town, or, I mean, there's probably a lot of licensed people that are all over the place.
Yeah,
but,
can you address that?
We offer a list of people that are licensed. You're not required to get any of those people. You're required to get a legitimate engineer, contractor, excuse me, that has the proper insurance, experience, and then he purchases a license. I think it's $100. So you just have to get somebody that's that protects you and protects us with the proper insurance.
Okay. And one last question. We haven't talked about one more cost. How much is it going to cost me for my sewerage bill?
To what? I'm sorry.
For this, I mean, I'm getting a bill now for my water bill. Am I going to be getting a sewerage bill on top of that?
Yes, certainly.
And what's the approximate cost of that?
The minimum is $97.20 a quarter.
How does it relate to my water? It's directly related. Much more.
Yeah.
So my water bill's $100 a quarter, my sewer bill's $100?
No. The rate is not the same. All I was saying is that the sewer bill is calculated based on the water that comes into your house. So whatever that amount of water is that you're using, we use that quantity of water times our rate per gallon.
Okay, is the rate going to be higher for the sewer works than it is for the water?
I don't know what the rate for the water is, but I can tell you what the rate for the sewer is.
Okay, so everybody understands the water rates. The water district charges $3.60 per 100 cubic feet. The sewer charge is $11.50 a 100 cubic feet.
Say that again, please.
The sewer charge is $11.50 per 100 cubic feet. The water charge is $3.60. So if you get a $100 water bill, if that's what you get,
yeah,
I would estimate your sewer bill will be about $200 or maybe even more.
Oh, $200 more?
Yes.
Per quarter?
A quarter.
It's double.
$300 for the sewer, $100 for the water.
Correct.
Good answer.
My name is Bernie Forget. I live at 120 Pratt Street, Lunenburg. And I've been listening intensely to this conversation tonight, and I'm appalled that this is really going on. This is buying a pig in a blanket. You don't know what your actual cost is going to be and what it's going to be down the road. For me, I will not be tying up to the sewer system.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
One of the
Daniels.
comments that I've heard repeated is that this is a vote that the Sewer Commission takes, and that this is somehow being imposed on the citizens by the Sewer Commission. And that's not the way the process works. A majority of the people on the street have to want it and agree to it, and then it goes to town meeting for vote. And that's how the process worked. The Sewer Commission didn't vote to make you or cause you to have sewer.
But they didn't provide the knowledge for a rational.
It misrepresented. People like to know what they're going to spend before they buy.
I completely understand that, yeah.
You have already approved, put money down, paid this gentleman for his services without fully disclosing what the expenses. Not only you didn't disclose, you misrepresented.
I would take objection to we misrepresented. We tried our best to identify the cost, if I could please. We tried the best we could to make people aware of the cost up front. We put the cost at the town meeting, and it was open meeting, and it would have been great if these questions had come out at the town meeting before the town voted to continue with this process. We required a 66% of the people on the street affected to be in favor of it before we accepted to proceed. That's our process, and that process got met. We went to town meeting. As I said, we put at town meeting a $27,000 betterment, presented that to the town. We're now looking at $23,000, so we've already been able to reduce that, we believe, from 27 to 23.
66% was achieved on signatures under a different number. That's the point.
Yeah, that.
You would have got the town.
Well, anyone that came to town would have seen a $27,000 estimate.
That's when I found out at the town meeting. That.
Yeah.
All these other costs were in the high 30s.
That's what it's looking like. I don't know what a septic system would cost, or if some people are even able to put a septic system. Yeah, and that's our mission, is to try to help people that can't get by any other way. And these two areas have those situations in place. And I don't know what those people would do without this, but this is where we are today. I feel very bad that people feel misled. There was certainly no intention to mislead. As a matter of fact, as Kevin said, we, as you can see, we were very cautious with that cost at town meeting, and went as high as a $27,000 cost, just so people would be aware that this is not a low cost, $5,000, $10,000 project. Times have changed from then. So we tried our best. We didn't try hard enough, I guess. We'll learn from this experience. I don't know who misrepresented us. That is extremely unfortunate. And I can't speak to those people. I don't even know who that would have possibly been, that would have so badly underestimated this. They certainly weren't on the Sewer Commission, because we were well aware that this was. Yeah, and maybe that's another lesson learned. But these things are grassroots. You know, as you know, Mr. Daniels said, you know, we don't go push sewer on anyone. Even these streets, which have, from the first project, these streets should have been done in the first phase, and for some reason they got dropped from the plan. But we weren't pushing on these streets at all. We wait for residents to come to us and ask us, and then we ask those residents, can they, you know, are there 60% or 66% of the people in that area that want it? Because if there isn't, we will not recommend it to the town. We will not proceed. And those requirements were met here. Matter of fact, Lakeview Pratt was quite high percentage. But maybe I now know that some people were misled. And I apologize for that, whoever those people were.
We want a new vote. We want a new vote.
Well, it's not something that we can vote on. The Sewer Commission can't vote on it.
We need to do, with the knowledge that everyone in this room has tonight, I would guarantee you would not get a 66% majority. I could be wrong, but what would it take to have a recall vote and see, now that the people that are sitting here have the knowledge?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I think that's a legal question that we're not capable of answering.
Right. Yeah, we're going to have a discussion on this and talk to our legal. We have already secured funds from the state on this. We have made certain commitments on your behalf to the state. But as I said, I would never say never. So we will take that up for sure. We hear that loud and clear. Talk to our council about what that would mean. You know, talk to the state about, you know, how that would happen, what that would mean, and get back to you for sure, quickly.
What time frame? Before they start digging up the roads and...
Oh, certainly. Yes. Certainly in June. I just don't know how quickly we can get all of these inputs. And there's no construction going to start before July. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Christina Mokel. I live on Sunset Ave, which is one of, I think, the only private road, Sunset Ave and Harris Ave. And unfortunately, my neighbors have pretty much left that live on the same street as I do. I have a couple of questions. Because it's a private road, it has not been ever plowed by the town or accepted by the town. It's a one-lane dirt road, so it's a twofold question. Should this go forward? Is it going to get paved? And the second one, is the town going to take it over?
Right now, we've secured, because this project was unique in that this is the first time that we've had people in need that we could not get to on town roads. So we have secured easements across the paths, I'll call them, roads, that you're speaking. I didn't mean to insult anyone, but it was hard to find them. So we have secured easements so that we can bring the sewer to the people, but there's no plan to pave the road or plow it in the future. We're not taking ownership of the town, of the land. We are maintaining responsibility for the pipes in the ground, which is why we have the easements. So we can, if there's a problem, we can go in, we can fix it. There are pipes. They're not your pipes. We'd have to maintain them, but there is no plan to better those roads.
Okay, so they wouldn't get paved.
They would not
get paved and wouldn't be accepted by the town.
No.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can answer this or not. There's a lot of water issues on Pratt, and there's a couple houses on Rennie that have water issues too, with basements flooding in the spring. And one of the things that I know we were told was that with the sewer coming through, that would alleviate a lot of the water in people's basements coming in. Is that true or not? Because the main house on our road is an abandoned house that has the water issues, and because their basement floods, the water goes down to the next person and so on. And I'm wondering, was that just like a pipe dream that if we get sewer, that people's water issues will diminish?
I could ask our engineer. It's not obvious to me that groundwater is going to be affected by the sewer.
Yeah, that is a good question, but I guess I would answer it this way. If each individual home discharges on average 200 gallons per day of wastewater into the ground right now, not doing that's putting it in the pipe and sending it to Leominster. It's probably going to be a small amount. That when Mother Nature does her thing with a lot of snow melt, rain on top of it, that 200 gallons is going to be probably fairly insignificant. Would be probably the easiest way for me to answer that. There's a compilation of all of those properties that would add up to a little bit more. Got it, but I would say it's probably small. It will help a little bit, but I think small. Hopefully that helped.
I don't see any hands. Yes, sir.
Terry McNally from Rennie Street. Want to thank Danny and Dave for helping us with some costs that we didn't know about. The other thing was for, 15,000 is a lot of money. Do you know if there are any governmental type loans or, from other neighborhoods that have gone through this? Or is this just good luck, have a nice day?
I'm not sure of other loans. I know there's other loan programs. I'm not sure there's any loans that'll be any better interest rates than the loans we're getting.
Than a private bank? Is that what you're talking? I'm
No,
talking
no, the
about,
state-
I'm talking about on my end, not the better.
That.
Do you know? You guys don't have any.
There is maybe
handle on that?
you could share. There is something that maybe helps. I don't know.
There's not a lot I can share about it. There's been a program. It was set up many years ago. It runs under the Board of Health. The Board of Health hasn't been distributing those funds or making those funds available. It was to help people who failed Title V, how it's administered and what they do with that money and how much they give, and it is income eligible, a requirement. And my understanding is that there's some discussion right now as whether or not the Board of Health is going to administer or whether they're going to give it over to MRPC. I don't know the details beyond that because a lot of it, I know that there's a limit on how much they can charge to administer, and that would be the cost from it. There's a little over $120,000, something in that neighborhood.
Thanks.
Okay. I first, thank you for coming out. Clearly, we needed to hear a lot of these comments, and I appreciate that. I apologize if you feel that you've been misled. I can only assure you that there was certainly no intention here. We were under the understanding that there was a significant need, and that we were helping people get what they wanted. We will take this back. We'll talk to our legal very quickly and see what the process might be. To give the people another bite at this apple. I can't make any other promises other than we will do it as quickly as we can. Yes, sir. If you could come up just so people can hear. I'm sorry, I couldn't just.
I'm too loud so people wouldn't want me next to a mic. Brad Joyle, 204 Crossroad.
Thank you.
One thing I can understand is I'd be misled too. It's like if you go to buy a car, yeah, the car's 27 grand, but you want the keys, it's another 15.
Mm-hmm.
So the real number we should be talking would be the 38,000. But my question is just in keeping up with this potential recall vote. How do I keep up with that? Where can I find that information, or what progress has or hasn't been made?
Good. Yeah, there's several ways. One is the website. We will keep up-to-date information on the Sewer Commission website. If you signed the sheet tonight and provided your email, we'll send out emails. It'll be the same information we put on the website, but you won't have to go to the website to find out if we put anything there. And you can always obviously contact Barb at the DPW, and her contact information is on our website as well. So thanks for asking. Okay. Well, does someone have this? Does someone have the sign-up sheet? There it is. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm gonna do something. Okay. I guess I'll bring this part of the agenda to a close. Again, thank you very much for coming out. As you can see how important it was, so I'm very glad we did this. I hope you are too.
The man in the back is our 8 o'clock appointment, Cliff Davis.
Oh, okay.
As soon as he makes his way up front.
No, it's, our meeting's not.
I'm not going to have the energy for much of this agenda.
I know. I have a whole bunch of, it's mostly invoices in here, but the commission, I would like to sign the commitment. Kevin's going to stay just for this Cliff Davis because it's Arbor Street and it's CWMP. He was asking a lot about the engineers.
Yeah, where is he? Is it first place on Arbor?
No, he's up. He's up almost across from Pine Street. Did you look at the GIS map at all?
I looked at the map you sent.
Yeah.
Was it indicated? I didn't see anything that.
I don't remember.
I know GIS map. It was our sewer
Our package.
thing,
The
right?
package. And I didn't print out the package this time. We need to move people out.
Excuse me. If everyone could please you have your attention.
Want me to whistle? Oh, you have a whistle.
We have some business to continue, so if everyone could go out there, I appreciate it. Oh my God.
I think very few of them got it. Want me to whistle again?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got the booming voice. Excuse me. Could you please? Done and happy. Yeah, don't go to happy thing. No happy thing. Thank you. Arbor Street map.
Oh, sorry. Yikes. So he's in this yellow.
Oh, way up here. Oh, that yellow. Ah,
So
there
bring
you
it-
go.
So shrink it. Yeah.
Let's just go up here. So yeah, because the
Yeah. So it's from
sewer's way down there.
Mass, Yeah.
I'll see you at home. I gotta
Much to
stay.
discuss. We certainly ain't going any more sewer extensions.
See you later.
Hi, Elsa. How are you?
Compliance. Oh, the non-compliance. I don't know if you want to deal with all that.
Okay, if we could, it's getting a little quiet. If we could go on to our 8 o'clock appointment at 10 minutes of 9.
It was a little late.
Sorry about that.
We were a little late. Sorry.
I really would have liked to stop at 8, to tell you the truth, but.
9.
Okay. So we have an appointment with Chip Davis of 90 Arbor Street. Step right up. One second, because
Is that microphone on?
Mic doesn't seem to be.
Hello.
Okay, maybe you weren't close enough.
What we're proposing is to take an extension from Mass Ave down Arbor Street to Pine Street, which follows the water line for the town. One reason is we're trying to protect the Department of, the Environmental Protection watershed, which is behind a few of the homes on the beginning of Arbor Street. Some of the homes that are there are in need of septic systems, which would cost in well over $40,000. So we're proposing to put in the EM1 systems or the E1 systems, like everyone else has been talking about tonight, which is interesting. We're looking to do that. It's 1,432 feet that we want to do this. We have 6 out of the 11 so far of the residents that have agreed to this proposal. They have gotten all the information on the pumps. It has been explained to them that there are 2 styles, one inside, one outside, and for most of us, it's all outside. And nobody has a dry basement on the street. We have a water table that is very high. Everyone pumps out their basements on the street. My house, being built in 1721, It's not what you call a tight basement, so it's relatively wet all the time, spring, winter. So what we want to do is put this line through. It's proposed as a 2.5-inch line through the vendor. They did the engineering on it. They suggested a 2.5-inch line. Now I know that for expansion, it may be larger is what's needed. Bob Proctor is also involved with this. I've known him for many years. So he is also involved in consulting with on this project. I'd like your approval on it, to meet with the town and go through it.
So you've clearly done your homework, so there's no surprises here.
No surprises. I've even got topographical maps to show you where the watersheds are, the grading, how high the water levels are. Beginning of Arbor Street, it's 413 feet of grade. Down to my house, it's 403 feet. If I put a septic tank out in my backyard, I dig down a 1.5 feet, I'm going to be hitting water.
Yeah. I'm a little familiar with the area. I think we met actually. Your across the street neighbor. Yeah. So I've seen the wetness up there and the issues. I guess just sticking to the process. I mean, the first thing which Barb informed you of is this is not in the sewer service area.
Yes.
So we have to deal with that question first.
It's a private function.
Yeah, but it still would have to be in the sewer service area in order to be allowed to be done and connect into our system. And so we would need to look at why it's not in the sewer service area. Would be with that kind of
We'd like to know that, since it follows the water line of the town, which the town goes down Arbor Street and then down Pine Street. And
can you come up to the I know you have a booming voice, but
Matt Woodward or Woody at 64 Arbor Street. The reason why was never even considered to be done is when they put the sewer line down to the trailer park, that's a force main up to one manhole basically at the end of Arbor Street, basically across from the primary school. From there over, it's a gravity-fed system. So we couldn't have got it even if we wanted it, because it's not downhill. Basically, it's just a gravity gain. So what we're proposing to do is privately as neighbors, if you just look down the street, many people are selling their houses and whatnot. Many people need septic systems. Even people who have septic systems know they're on borrowed time, basically. So rather than look down the street and see 11 raised systems in everyone's backyard, maybe we all can get together and put a system in, save us maybe some money, generate some revenue for the town. Everybody's a winner.
We try to deal with local vendors only.
right. Yeah, and that's good, and appreciate that. But well, before we, I mean, the sewer service area is the key first thing, and I understand the Meadow Woods, whole story, but the CWMP had nothing to do with that. CWMP looked at the entire town, every piece of town, and as I said, went through all of the technical aspects, the gravels, all of these things, and in this area, I didn't go look at this area, for some reason came up with the conclusion that it was not a needs area. So the process we've had, because you're not the first one that came in, not in the sewer service area, that had a need, quite frankly, and I don't know how many have come before us. One has gotten through. The others have not, because they could not prove a need. So at least as of now, the process has been that the applicant, or whatever we want to call, has to first prove a need, that area cannot be served by sewer, by septic. And the cases that we went through, they did all the tests, they went to the Board of Health, they got it confirmed that it was not possible to put a septic system, a compliant septic system, not any septic system in that area. And then we did recommend to town that the sewer service area be changed to incorporate that parcel of land. It was nothing as large as this. It was a single parcel, but the principle still applies, and the process should still apply.
Well, the one thing is, with what we're proposing, it's to help out the ones that we have on our street, we already know a couple that have already failed. One person turned around, couldn't wait any longer for the process or anything. So they're already putting in a new septic system. They've already started digging this week, actually today, to put in a new septic system on the property. We have...
Mr. Daniels?
Just to let you know a little bit about the process, we don't have the power or the ability to vote, yes, you can do it. In order to extend the service area, it would have to go to town meeting. So, okay, so you know that.
That I do know.
Okay.
Clear.
All right.
You've done your homework.
We're just trying to follow through all the procedures,
Okay.
make sure that we get this done.
Right. And, anyone, of course, just so if we went out there, I mean, anyone can take something to town meeting with the proper signatures and so forth. You don't even need us. Clearly, we think it would be preferable and that the town would, appreciate if the sewer commission supported it. So the first step is, in my mind, and you're doing your homework and you've got the data and that's great, is to essentially build a case that it is an area of needs and it cannot be served by septic systems.
The other half of the problem is all our homes, the back section of all our lots abut the aquifer. So we can't, if there's a problem with anybody that has a septic system out back, can it contaminate the aquifer? Who knows? We don't know how deep it is. We don't know how deep these septic systems go. And so we're trying to keep everything going.
Yeah. But I presume a properly designed and approved septic system would not pollute anything.
Well, my question is, I suppose if you build a mound big enough, you can have a septic system that works.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an engineer. I'm just a guy who likes to put a track.
The people at home are going to wonder who's speaking. They have no idea.
Yeah, sorry.
Matthew.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you didn't read my statement I read.
Put my good shirt on or something. I guess my question for the sewer committee is, what do you, I'm trying to think of the word, what parameters are you looking to see at, to look at, to be like, hey, you know what, I think everybody can just put in their own septic system and they'll be fine? Or, I mean, what are the parameters you're going to be looking at? Be like, yeah, there's a high water table, there's problems. I mean, like I say, if you build a hill high enough, you throw some pipes in there, you can pump it up and leach it out. I mean, anybody can do that. I'm just saying, we all got together and thought this would be a good idea to save 11 septic systems going in the next 4 years down our street. And if we paid for it privately, I mean, I do understand that it's not just like, hey, we're going to get together, shove a pipe into your manhole and say, here's a couple bucks. I understand that. But what is what you look for to be like, this is a good idea or not a good idea?
Well, as I said, we've so far used a fairly simple process, and that's proving that a septic system cannot be put in. And there are areas that they cannot, and we've approved those. It's clear. I mean, there's new technology in septic systems. So in our policies, we say that if you can put a septic system in using, not only just conventional but innovative alternative systems, then that is the right way to go. And that's the town has made that decision. It's also not ours, and that's why we hold so tight to the CWMP, because the town had a very clear message that the town did not want the entire town sewered, right? That they wanted sewer supporting the areas that need sewer because they can't deal with the sewerage in any other way. So that's the principle that we're operating on.
Yes. I mean, I would just add that if any one of the boards in town say that it's not serviceable by a septic, I would certainly be in support of it.
Well, if Jack Waterkin was here, he'd be able to tell you how high the water level is, because it is extremely high on our street. And that's why we're having to come about with this proposal. We're trying to avoid any problems. We're trying to keep things going, keep our homes going. I don't think anybody, $35,000, $40,000 for a septic system, then you have to fight with the EPA for encroachment on watershed.
We should have told the other crowd.
You should have told them that.
We get it.
We get it. We want it.
I think you're asking what your next step is or what direction you should go in.
I know we have the town meeting that we would have to go through to make a proposal, and we need all the votes in at that point in time. We need some kind of expert information on what the design's going to be, what the proposal's going to be, what we're looking for. Now, I know you were discussing when I first walked in, there are 2 different pumps that are in question for this, for the projects, the grinder pumps. Now, the inside one or the outside one, or is it the E1, or is it the Liberty pump? I have no idea. I was going off the impression that there was only one pump approved by the town for putting in these units, the grinding pumps, which was...
It's not true. There's only one pump currently used in the town, and it is the E1.
E1.
But it's not approved by the town or recommended even by the town. The town has stayed clear of the pump subject until now, when we are essentially 80 people that are going to have to be going to get pumps. We didn't want to leave them out negotiating their own situation, or ending up with pumps that are not compatible with each other on the system. So, but currently there is no recommendation by the town for a pump. That's what we're trying to fix.
Okay.
Right.
Understood.
All right. So, but again, I have to go back that, the commission, I'll open up in a minute for any inputs from them, but historically, the first step is to prove need. And that's the whole CWMP philosophy, is to prove need. And at least in that document, and I don't know, maybe you've gone through the document and maybe there's some issues with the document, that would be a place even for you to start, is look at the CWMP and why was that determined not to be an area of need? Maybe there's an issue there. That would be important. Short of that, if there's no major issue there, then perhaps this is a subset, because the areas were pretty big, right? There's little areas within the area. So there could well be, and this may be one, a small area within that big area that was evaluated that has need. That would be...
Is this something that you would like to have basically to make a decision?
Do you need that information to make a decision to go in front of?
We need to have that whole discussion of, to stand by our current policy, which is to establish need, that everything's based on need.
I guess my question is, do you like a...
Thank you. A lot of help here.
Would you like a letter or a document or something to you as from the neighborhood of Arbor Street, let's just call us, showing need with references, etc.? I guess my question, who wants that?
Let's understand need. I mean, need is a technical issue. It's not I got water in my backyard.
Right.
It's a technical issue, and I think if you had something from engineers that said, we've reviewed the CWMP, and for this confined area, these are the inconsistencies, and they came to the wrong conclusion.
Okay.
If that were the case,
right,
things get a lot simpler.
Okay.
Right?
And then we give this to you.
To the commission, and then we
guys
could review it. We
make
give it
your
to
own
our,
decision.
and we would want to bring in our engineers,
Sure.
clearly, to review that, say, is this correct, and get their input, and then we would have discussion and see what the next step would be after that.
If I just might say, as a member, anybody that's come forward to us and can show a hardship.
Yep.
Hardship is actually, that's what we're willing to act on it. I can speak for myself. That's obviously a hardship situation, that I'd be for it. I'd be voting for it. That it's pretty straightforward. If you can't have a septic, and you show the hardship, well, yeah, I mean, and it's pretty much that's how it's worked in the past too.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
We'll see you back, I'm sure. So is the CWP available online?
Yes. Useful links. Cliff?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just
Kevin.
phase one would be the document to look at, which was the needs and assessment. So just to, because it's phase one, and then the recommended plan is actually phase four, but phase one actually details out the need. We had a dozen criteria, high water table, soils, you name it. So, but phase one really does detail that out. We have the maps, we have all the information there. So just in terms of reference, when you mention CWP, that is the specific document.
Right. And
That is still on the website.
so phase one is on the website still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Under
So
useful
you can pull it
links.
up. Good. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate your help. Okay. We're not going to make it through the whole agenda tonight, I tell you.
Non-compliance. You wanna go
Yeah,
through that?
geez, I guess we got to deal with all the tough things. All right, let's go to the grease trap non-compliance issues. Did everyone get the updated status sheet from Barb?
Okay.
Where's mine? Oh, there it is.
And then also I have copies of Troy's thank you. I didn't ever remember to say thank you for
Oh,
doing
sure.
these, the notice of
Troy's thank you.
non-compliance. All I did, the only difference I did to what was distributed was I added internal and external because it seems to be, as I'm getting paperwork in, confusion. They keep using the wrong form. So I want to make it clear what they're non-compliant with. So I've added just internal there and then internal here or external, external.
So I think this is a huge issue and a huge discussion point that could go on for hours and hours. But there is a piece of it that's fairly timely. We did issue the notice of fees a month ago.
424.
A couple days ago, a month ago, on 424. Some people have responded positively and got into compliance, but not all, unfortunately. And the timeliness is that technically effective 5/24, 2 days ago, people who did not get into compliance, which basically meant inspection report and cleaning reports, that they are now susceptible to a $25 a day fine, which is significant compared to the $50 fine for being non-compliant a month ago. That is effective a month ago. So if they're not compliant, I think they, unfortunately, in the clock trips, is it $750, looks like, as of now, and then clocking out at $25 a day. You have the reports, Barbara, and there's some of these that we could have discussion on.
Right, but this was kind of.
That's a summary, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that a key for the color? Oh, good.
Yes, kind of. Yes, I guess.
So the blue.
The blue
is in
basically in
compliance?
compliance.
Okay.
They've provided paperwork that we were looking for. The orange are not in compliance. And if there's yellow on the line, sorry, Mike, I have copies. Do you need one? Sue, do you need one? The orange is not in compliance. If there's yellow, there's a tenant and landlord situation that just needs to be determined how to handle. And then the pink is just, it's a question of mine. They have done what they need to do, but not paid the non-compliance fine. So does that make them out of compliance? Or do we just forgive it and let it? But then again, whatever, see. Other people have paid the compliance fee. So.
Boy, I hope that one would be an easy one. I mean, if they're in compliance, they're in compliance.
My impression is, based on the regulation, that we don't forgive the non-compliance fee that was originally assessed.
Right.
However, if they're in compliance, then there's no further fine or fee. I'm sorry, I shouldn't call it a fine. It's called
Yes,
fine
thank
on
you.
here several times, but it's a non-compliance fee. That's the way I read the regulation and understood it.
Anyone see it differently? The case is.
Yeah.
You understand, right?
I guess where I'm at with it is, I mean, obviously by what's going on here, we've had issues. We've had, no matter, we've been to visit, we've tried, mailings, we've tried everything, and there's obviously issues, and we need grease to stop going in the system. And I believe, or I'd like to believe, by doing what we've done with small water and having them go visit, and that this is going to get much better. I don't know if I'm all too crazy about enforcing until SWS gets in there and visits, and they realize there's somebody there. They realize, it's to be taken serious. For whatever reason, I don't know, we're missing something here for it to be this blatant, I guess. And I'm a little uncomfortable with, honestly, I'm a little uncomfortable with the $25 a day fine. That I understand, but for some reason the message is not getting across. And I think SWS is a good way of getting the message across, and I think it's going to improve. And our main mission here is to stop grease from going in the system, which...
I guess I have a question about, you said the blue are in compliance, is that right?
Right.
And just looking at the first example on here, it's in compliance, no fee levied, but then there was a $25 a day levied, is that what I'm reading?
Which one are you on?
The first one.
Electric,
First
yeah.
line, very first line.
Aerial.
It says that the log for internal, external compliance fee, that there's
Is this
no...
5 electric? I'm sorry.
5 electric.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I left it on there. Actually, Brian came and knocked on the door after it had been locked tonight with the last piece I was looking for.
So that 750 amount is incorrect?
That should be, yeah.
That shouldn't
If
be
it's
there.
blue, yes, sorry. The fine levied is no, so I apologize.
And-
That shouldn't have been there.
And am I to understand that some of these still haven't even paid their annual license to operate within the sewer?
Just only Hannaford. And it is a situation where there was a change of management. I did talk to the new manager. He was unaware of it. I sent him the letter. He was supposed to come today with that, with the compliance fee, with all the documents, because Hannaford has historically been really very good about complying, but it's just
That
new
was the
manag-
only one?
That's the only one now. I did receive the other missing one.
Okay.
So,
And then on 50 Mass, down in the purple, it says they're in compliance, and there's still the daily $25 assessed there.
because they've done what they need to do, but not paid the non-compliance fee.
I see. So it's been interpreted that if they don't pay the compliance fee, then they're still not in compliance with the regulation?
That's what I'm
Okay.
bringing to you guys.
Have they been given that notice? Have they been sent that second notice, if that were the
There's
case?
been no second notice. There's
Okay.
just the April 24th.
So no one's gotten a second notice?
No.
Right. Yeah.
No one has?
No.
No one has.
Okay.
And that was the agreement. There was, because there was so much
Yep.
confusion here, we want notices just to go out automatically without some discussion. And maybe we could just dispose of those real quick then, so as I think, I certainly agree with what Troy said, and I'd like to see if there's any difference from the rest of the commissioners. And that would be that, we sent the $50 notice. They've become compliant, except for paying the $50 notice. And I agree with Troy that they're compliant. They owe us $50, but they're compliant, and that they should not get the additional $25 a day, so forth. So, unless there's
And I guess at some point I would like for them to know that, yeah, you owe that $50 and you may not pay it for the whole year, but it does affect your victuals license.
Right.
So when Barb this next calendar year forwards the information to the Board of Selectmen, it will affect them, and they will either have to pay it or risk not having their license renewed.
Exactly.
As far as, if I can comment on, Mr. Chairman, on the enforcing the regulation, I think there's been a long history. There's been many years that have passed, and there's never been real compliance with this. And I think if we want to keep the fats, oils, and grease out of our system, then we're going to have to at some point enforce it, and we have to decide when that is. And I thought we already did decide that. And I also think that if we don't want to enforce the regulation that it's written, then maybe we should revisit the regulation.
Right. I agree. The regulation is pretty clear. We've been trying, as Mike said, we've been visiting people, talking to them, everything, I was going to say short of begging, but I think I did beg once or twice. And some people are responding. I don't want to miss that. I mean, with these things we just corrected, probably half of the population here is okay and getting good. The other half, for some reason, we haven't reached. Personally, I think we need to. I appreciate what you're saying, Mike, and I feel the same way. But the regulation is the regulation, and we were expecting, quite frankly, I was expecting that if nothing else, that they would request a hearing to argue their case of why they're not complying and why they shouldn't have to pay the fees. Now, maybe a $50 fee wasn't enough for that. So I would like to hear from the rest, but I think we need to go ahead with the with the regulation as it is, and when they see a $750 bill, then maybe they'll schedule some hearings and we can get to the bottom of what's causing the problem. We always have the ability to modify, waive, or adjust the fee. So it isn't just because we send them these bills that that has to be the end of the story. And I would strongly encourage all of these people to come in and see us, because the bill will be there and they will owe it to us, and they will, when they go for their license, they will run into trouble. So we don't want that to happen. We want the businesses to be happy and doing well, but we want them to take care of the grease and comply.
I would just say to that point that we've experienced also with when you talk about the $50 maybe not being enough, we've experienced with even just the licenses that people have just sent in $250 rather than pay it timely for $50.
Right.
So that's confusing to me from a business standpoint, but so maybe to your point there.
Yeah.
If I may say,
absolutely,
knowing that it's most likely going to be negotiable, if
right.
I guess rethinking what I said is maybe it is a good way to get them in the door and get them compliant, and then obviously work something out with them here. But I guess it's so frustrating that no matter what we seem to do, it doesn't.
Right.
And I honestly do think that this step we took now is going to really help it out a lot.
Yeah. I absolutely agree, and my hopes are in when Small Water starts making these visits. They see these dollars. Let's talk to Small Water. I mean, I would love it if people come in before, but if Small Water comes in and they come in and say, look, I just didn't understand. Can you give me some consideration? I would certainly be very predisposed to giving as much leniency towards these fines as possible, with some commitments to do the right thing going forward. So with that, perhaps it would be good, I think, to have a motion whether if we proceed with the next step of notifying people that they have not yet come into compliance within the 30 days that they were given, and that the new fees will be applied, and encourage them to come in for a hearing.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to send notices pursuant to our regulation, and that the fee be the same as what's stated in the regulation. I will also add to that I believe that the regulation states that make a motion that it is not, that you are in compliance whether you've paid the first non-compliance fee or not.
Okay. Good to clarify.
I didn't
Did that
get that
clarify,
last
Byron?
part. Just
If you've provided all the reporting that's required, but you have not yet paid your first non-compliance fee, not paying the fee is not non-compliance, in my opinion, according to the regulation.
is not non-compliance?
It is not.
Is not in compliance. Are they in compliance if they haven't paid?
If they haven't paid,
Right.
yes. If they've report, because you're sending non-compliance fees based on the reporting,
Right.
not based on the payment of a non-compliance fee.
And devil's advocate only is that so many who are compliant went ahead and paid the fee. So, then what do you do?
Well, they all owe it. Everyone who's been served a notice, the $50, owes the money.
Okay.
They all owe it. If they have not yet paid it,
Yeah.
they will still owe it, but they are in compliance with the regulation if they
Okay.
provided the
I see what
reporting.
you're saying. Okay. Remove all that rest of it, and we'll go
Okay.
back to what you originally said. I see. They're in compliance,
That's
but
probably
the
the
fee
longest,
is still due.
most convoluted
Yeah.
motion.
And I'm going to probably kind of try to...
Do I need to restate it, Mr.
Would
Chairman?
you? That would be awesome. I make a motion to send notices pursuant to the regs and with the fees the same as the regulations specify. And add that regulation states if you provided all reporting but not yet paid the compliance fee, you are in compliance but still need to pay the fee.
Correct.
How's that? Okay.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, may I ask another question?
Sure.
And I don't think I copied it here, it was on one of the tabs, and it's just regarding where there is a tenant. One of them is Hadwin, where they have not submitted the internal log. And so they're non-compliant, but there is a landlord, so we've talked about the fact that if there's a permit, then there's a fee for non-compliance. Hadwin has the permit. So I'm assuming that I'm leaving Lunenburg Village Realty out of this because it's the internal log. And we talked about involving the landlord when it was the external or shared unit. So is it all right with everybody if I am only finding the...
May I, Mr. Chairman? My take on that is that it may be a condition of their lease agreement to be compliant. So I think it would be in our best interest to notify a landlord that I don't think that there's going to be any burden attached to it for the landlord necessarily, but I do think that they should be made aware of it.
So I can just CC them, okay, CC the landlord, but not assess a fee to the landlord. Okay, that's fine, I just needed to know.
And that's the case where there's only an internal
correct
associated with the business and
right.
no external.
Right. We have Dario's and Ixtapa who have paid no fees, and then AD Crossroad, which is the landlord. So the assumption again, and we will assess permit fees differently now that that's kind of developed through this process with the landlord and the tenant. But my plan is that we would assess the landlord for the external shared interceptor and then assess fees to both Ixtapa and Dario's for the internal. That's all right with people.
Let me see if I heard you correctly. So in that case, we have two businesses that have internal traps.
Right.
And hopefully they have permits and
yes,
have to meet the requirements for those traps.
Right.
There's one shared external interceptor.
Correct.
And right now, is there a permit against that? Does Crossroads have a permit?
No, because we had not done that. We'd only permitted the food establishments, not the landlords, as of yet. So it's the other question.
Who manages just out of curiosity, who manages the external? Who calls in the pumper?
No, as far as I know.
So we've never had any report of that being pumped?
Never had anything from that entire group.
It seems to me in the cases like that, and we have two in town, right? I think just two, where there's two businesses that have internal.
I'm sorry.
There are two businesses in town, or two sites in town that have two businesses on that site with internal traps, and then one common external.
That was changed, actually. We did learn that the Mickey Shays does not have an external. They only have an internal. And that the Ugly Omelet is the only owner-operator of the external. We thought
So Mickey
they
Shays
were.
is not connected
No,
to the external?
We thought they were, but they are not. They don't have the internal.
Okay. So in that case,
So it is just Crossroads, is this one situation where there's a shared between two restaurants.
well, what's the board's sense on that? Seems that
I have a concern, Mr. Chairman. If we assess a fee, a non-compliance fee against that external trap, who do we, is it permitted under one tenant or both tenants? And are we going to get involved into disputes of who is more or less responsible and who calls, who didn't call? And you understand where I'm going with this?
I think what I just heard is it's
No
not
one's
permitted.
ever, yeah, well,
They've been silent on it.
they've paid their permit fee. They've done nothing else as
They've
far
never
as
reported.
compliant.
Or
No, the restaurants.
The
Because we had never,
restaurants.
we'd never had really
it
investigated.
sounds like we've never really,
Is it
Landlords-
a divided permit fee or is it two separate permit fees?
Divided. Each of them have been assessed a permit fee.
it's two separate
Right.
permits fees, two separate permits.
But when I say divided, I meant mathematically. Is it divided cost or is it two? Okay.
Two separate,
Two separate.
dealt with.
So each one has a permit fee that they pay,
Right.
but it sounds like nobody is responsible for maintaining the external interceptor.
Well, I would say they're both responsible, but how it's assessed and how, I mean, technically, if there's two permits, they're both responsible. The way the regulation reads, in my opinion, is that they both would be assessed non-compliance. But then you run into,
Yeah.
they come in and say, well, they agreed to do it and they haven't done it.
And
or-
let them, maybe let the landlord deal with it. At this point, just the same thing, maybe CC the landlord. But for our FY16 permits, the landlord actually would be permitted for the external shared unit. And then he can increase rent or do whatever he needs to.
And if the
As
landlord
opposed to us deciding-
disagrees to, or doesn't want to be permitted, then how would we?
You mean, what's our leverage with a non-licensed entity?
No, I mean, if the landlord just refuses to be permitted, I don't want an external grease trap there anymore, and so does it effectively, the tenants have to find alternative source? They have to have a separate interceptor, two separate interceptors? How? I don't know, maybe this needs more work, but
Yeah, it does. And, you know, it seems like we maybe should reach out to the landlord and see. Because it really is the common point. Otherwise, you get tangled up between these two people and who's responsible, and I don't know what their lease says, who owns it.
Yeah, it might be a quick answer that it's Ixtapa manages it or whatever. And Dario's like the Mickey Shays, maybe Dario's is
right.
not connected to it.
For the last year, they told me they were getting all the reports in, and they haven't been, and now they're gone. So you see where I think it could be become a problem for the sewer commission.
I thought I heard a little pause of doubt there. We're not sure that these two go into that same interceptor even?
No, there's no knowledge, there's no anything about it. But
So we need
at
to
some
do
point, I was told there was a shared.
I do think that the regulation makes them both responsible, and I do think they both should be assessed a non-compliance fee. How we manage it in the future as far as permitting with the landlord, I think we can have
A conversation.
or maybe even council can give us some advice on that, on how we,
Yeah.
you know.
We'll find out
when
how
they,
the
when they
situation-
permit tenants to share an external grease trap, does that give them any responsibility toward compliance?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will assess fees to Ixtapa and Dario's. And then I'll CC the landlord and also call the landlord and find out what the situation, just even hardware, what's where. Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Yep, I like it. Okay. Enough for grease traps, 9:30. Thank you, Kevin.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I wanted to see, was there anything else that the commission would like from me tonight regarding the CWMP update proposal, or I know that's not something you need to act on tonight, so I just wanted to hang on to see if that was, I'm ready to talk about it if you'd like, or not.
I don't know if anyone's had time even to review the CWMP update. So let's just put that on our agenda for next week, and you don't have to come. I've read it.
You have
It's
what you
very
need
clear.
for
It's very straightforward, I think.
Okay.
And then if we get questions next week, we'll get back to you.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it,
Kevin.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm on the sewer line insurance that we have a confirmation from homeowner safety valve that they will have a representative here at our the end of June meeting. So it'll be telecast for anyone who's interested in that. Let's see.
I don't have anything on I&I. I was interested to hear what the Elizabeth Street resolution was. It says resolution.
That
I'm
manhole.
assigned for the next item. On the I&I reduction, you have me next. It says there's Elizabeth Street resolution.
That was a Jack. That manhole that had I&I issues has been capped. He's had New England pipe restoration out there and sealed it off.
We're done.
So we're done.
For now.
There we go. We're done in both places now then. Okay. Which sort of begs the next one. I didn't look at the reports. I don't know when the next time they're going to look at Graham Street metering station. But now that we've got that broken pipe
See if it's
sealed off, see if we have less sand there.
I will do whatever I can to make that.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Mike.
I'm an on flow.
Yes.
Honestly, I just got a chance to look at it.
Just got them?
today.
Okay, great.
I got them this afternoon. Well, Barbara sent them a couple days ago, but everything's pretty normal. Couple spikes, but it's the norm that nothing's out. But I would like to, now that that's done, be able to see Graham Street. So.
Okay, great. And I guess the other sort of open thing there is trying to get a data point, one of these quarters soon, in terms of what we're flowing to Fitchburg and what we're billing for.
Yes. Yep.
So, I don't know when the next convenient point is. We just completed the billing cycle, right, Barb?
Right, well, yeah, kind of. Mostly, it's out.
Okay.
It's done.
So we know what the total flow to Fitchburg should have been. If we could get that to Mike. And Mike, do you need any help in figuring out what?
No, I think once I have those numbers, I can.
Super. Okay. John Fitch Highway is, anyone who's driven down there knows it's under, yes.
On the privately funded extension update. The last time we had a discussion about that, there was a discussion about needing specifications for sidewalks, landscape planting, stuff like that.
Right.
And I was just wondering about, maybe Barb, you can tell me the best way to go about that, to get that information from, or see what thoughts Jack has, or is that the way to go about it? Do we need to go about it through town? Or is that something I'll have to investigate on my own somewhere?
I would assume start with Jack.
Okay.
But, and a planning board, I don't know, as far as, you mean return something to the original condition?
Well, there was a
or-
discussion about that, what do we want as a town? And certainly that's not something the sewer commission can decide, and we can't really make a decision about whether something's been brought back to what it was. And our sort of responsibility lies below the ground. But at the same time, bonds are released based on how it looks, and we wanted to avoid the issues that we had in the past
Yeah.
with some of the other private projects. And so, before we get into another private project, what do we want as a town? Where do we go for that to get those specifications? And I can follow up on that but I didn't know if there was already something that Jack
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I wonder if just legal counsel wouldn't add that into our private extension regulation to put in something like that, that it should be returned to the, prior condition.
I would be, personally, I would be hesitant because that would require us to make a determination. And do we go by pictures before and after? Do we have site visits? And are there occasions when we want it maybe better than what it was before?
Yeah.
But that's just my thought. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think it would be, sorry.
Yeah, I think we have a short conversation with Jack to see if he has some way we can get our arms around that. Without stepping outside of our bounds, clearly. So.
Okay. I'll do that.
Thank you. Okay. I'll skip my item. So anyway, John Fitch, I just say that they are finally starting that, and it looks like by October we'll probably know the costs, and at some point after that have to start paying our I think it was like $18,000, $18,000 a year, which we've been budgeting, and is not a problem. And but we do, matter of fact, on that, when we get a little closer, we do need to notify Highfield Village, right?
Yes.
Because
yes.
When we have to start paying, they're going to pay their amount up front, which is good. So that'll give us something to draw upon until we catch up with capacity fees. Okay. Billing commitment.
Billing commitment, we did send out our bills on May 15th, and I have the commitment for the commission's signature for $156,362.89. Should I just keep moving?
Yep.
Next on the agenda is the pump station reports. I have the 2 weeks in there.
Any comments on the pump station reports?
I just went through them quickly today, and again, I'm not sure how the communications we've had with them in the past have indicated that their comments are not sufficient. And when I looked through them all today, there was only one part checked or tested. I can't remember. There's usually probing and one other thing, and I think probing was missing on all of them. So to me, the comments are still insufficient.
Still insufficient, okay. So we need to give them that feedback.
Okay.
That's unfortunate.
All right.
Thank you.
And my one set of minutes I can thank Carl for May 6th. Oops, there's a second page, I'm
Nice and
sorry.
short.
There's a commitment and a warrant. There are two copies kind of for the same amount. One goes to the collector and one goes to the accountant.
My
So,
fault.
sorry, there was a second page.
My fault.
So anyway, the minutes of May 6th were sent out if everyone had a chance to
Does
review.
anyone, well, who was there? It's always a problem we
Well,
run into. At
it's
this
Carl
point, it's
and
that year, right?
Dave and Mike, but as
Yeah, I was
long as
gonna
Mike
say,
and Carl approve,
I did read them,
guess.
and
I read them.
I'm good with them.
Can I ask a question on minutes while we're on the subject of minutes? Sure. On the website, the town's website, we as a sewer commission don't have minutes for March, April, or May online. Is that a process on our end?
Yes.
Or it is?
No, it's my end. It's just this
So
has been a very...
did they get electronically sent to town clerk, and that's how they get
When they're
posted?
well, after you approve.
After we approve.
And then I...
So are we
We're
don't
just-
have these
We
minutes?
don't have them yet.
Okay.
They're all in some state of progress, but it's been a busy couple months.
Yeah, no, okay. I just wanted to,
Yeah, no, it's my holdup.
okay.
Okay. So there's only actually, Mike and I are the only ones that were at that meeting. They're still here, so.
So I'll make a motion to
Thank you.
accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And you just need to sign because you wrote it. Please. All right. Carl did send out we were asked by the clerk's office to send out a failure to elect memo to advise the selectmen that we have an opening, and Carl has done that, so the chairman, and I think that was in the package, was notified of that. I have a slew of invoices that have been accumulating in our last several busy meetings also, for your acknowledgement.
Just keep them to the next. Just keep them to the next.
Well, a lot of them, luckily Mr. Ebersol in his past tenure had the wisdom to put many of them through, and then we could ratify if we so choose. So most of the older ones have been put through.
Good.
Do you want me to go through them one by one?
I guess we have to.
Okay, Kopelman and Page for $2,244 for services through March 31st. So basically for March.
Is any of
Broken
this
out.
associated with the betterments?
Yes. They are broken out, which is SRF project related and which is general. That one might be all.
Okay, so general was $867, and the SRF was $1,377.
Right. And Sue, just, you know, Carl usually just initials. It's not like everybody has to sign it, but it's for everyone to see. We need coffee. Anybody got coffee? All right. Oops, I thought I had another one. City of Fitchburg. I thought I had two. Maybe not. That one already went through. So City of Fitchburg came through $17,654 for the exact amount that mirrored the flow usage. So nothing out of the ordinary, unexpected. And now that Kevin has left, I have multiple Wright Pierce invoices. One for the bidding phase of the SRF. I didn't say what the amount is, sorry. And that was the point I was trying to make during that information session, was the SRF loan does not cover all the work he's done up until this bidding phase, the design phase. So we have to borrow money to pay for all that engineering and design. And that'll be at a different rate than what the state, and that's what I was trying to say. It's not like we're trying to.
It's hard to imagine, though, that, because that's not even half of the money borrowed, right?
No.
So it's hard to imagine how that would
Right.
bring the whole thing up to 4%.
No,
I mean,
no. And I think with the initial project, the rate was 2% before, and then we assumed 4, and I think our interest was 3 on betterments. So there was an average and a weighing of what the other expenses are. Another Wright Pierce, this is for the DEP. This is the grant application, and as of last week, they had not heard. It is on the governor's desk. It's been submitted, but we don't know the answer yet, whether we qualify.
there were quite a few more bidders than they're going to get awards. As I recall, it was 40 or so bidders, and they're only expecting 13 or something awards. So.
And this is another bidding phase of the Wright Pierce through April 24th. Weston and Sampson building inspections, the I&I, their last appointment will be this Saturday, I think it is, May 30th.
Good.
So this was, the first one is through April 24th, the first one's through March 27th, and the second one's through April 24th, when the majority of the project was happening, and that was $12,226. A third Weston and Sampson invoice for the work they did on mapping on GIS, the manholes, and the work to date on the connection fees. I wish I hadn't gotten an update on.
Barb, do we know how much this grant would be if we were approved or
Was it up to 30,000?
Yes, it was 30,000.
Okay.
So, but this wasn't the manhole one, is that the next?
That's the next
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah, that's more building,
That's
that's the
building
INI.
inspection,
This is the GIS and then connection
Oh,
fee,
okay, yeah,
work
that
to
was
date.
only supposed to be 1,000. So is, oh, okay, so the mapping is the 1,000, great.
Right.
And then the connection.
Last one is the City of Leominster coming through for the 70,866.99, which was also given the billing and the estimates and the accurates, what I expected, so.
It's what we, so we're on track pretty well with
Yes.
the billings versus
Yep.
our budget.
Yes, actually, very, very well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Only other thing I had was 270 Electric is the self-storage unit that Mark Birch is, Mark Birch? Yeah, is
Richard,
proposing. Richard Birch is proposing, and that there was already a planning board hearing, and now the ZBA is looking at it tomorrow night. But there's no real sewer implications. So, just an FYI.
Good.
And the upcoming meetings, June 9th and June 30th, no other scheduled activities at this time. That was
Okay.
mine.
Any comments from the commission?
I'd like to say welcome to Sue Bunish.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
You're very much.
Yes.
Excellent.
welcome,
Well done.
Sue.
Welcome, Sue.
Appreciate it.
We can't promise this kind of excitement every time, but we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I would accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
I
you.
will second that
All right, what a
motion.
Uh,
guy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much and good night.